Hey guys, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor for the Bulwark. And look, over the past year, we here at the Bulwark have covered it all. Some of it has been extremely silly, like, a slap fight at the Young Republicans gala that ended with a full-on fist fight, to Trump's White House bathroom updates. Still some odd choices there. And a presidential library that kind of looks like a wedding venue from hell. Some of it's been more consequential. We have infighting among MAGA figures over the war in Iran. We got leaks coming out of the White House itself. And finally, some of this that we cover is genuinely good news, and I don't want that to get lost. We covered a pediatric cancer research bill finally becoming law after a year of fighting and targeting by Elon Musk and DOGE. So look, we cover the waterfront, and we think it's really important that you get both the veggies and the dessert. So with that, take a look at some of our favorite videos from the past year. Hey guys, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor at the Bulwark, and I am pleased to be joined by Matthew McWilliams, who is a fellow at the German Marshall Fund. And you might be wondering, well, why are we having Matthew McWilliams on this podcast? Who is this guy?
Who is this guy?
So this guy is an oracle. A real life oracle.
Not of Delphi.
Yeah, exactly. In all seriousness, the reason we're talking with Matthew McWilliams today is because a couple weeks ago in our office Slack, we were debating Donald Trump and why voters have flocked to him in the way they have. And one of our fellow editors here, Hannah Yost, said, you know who we should talk to about this phenomenon is that guy who wrote that thing in Politico back in 2016 about how there's one trait that can predict whether you're a Trump supporter. And she pasted the URL, and it was to a Politico magazine story. And indeed, it was from January 17th, 2016, so during the campaign.
Right.
And it's titled, "The One Weird Trait That Predicts Whether You're a Trump Supporter." And that trait is, Matthew, what is it?
It's authoritarianism. Ta-da!
Oh, my. And here we are.
Here we are. And I got to tell you, when I wrote that thing,
Yeah, tell
and
us.
I used the word authoritarianism, it was like verboten. Now everyone uses it, but when I wrote it, it was like, no, you can't say that.
Can't use that. All right. Before we get into the reaction to your piece from 2016, tell us what the study and findings are based on.
Well, the findings are based on a series of poll questions, and there are 4 poll questions. Now there are 8, but are used to determine if a person is an authoritarian or not. It's not deterministic; it's probabilistic. Right. Which means, if you score high in the authoritarian scale, doesn't mean you're authoritarian, but you might be. You're more likely to be than
inclined to be.
Yes, you're inclined to be. And what that means is that your political attitudes and your political opinions will reflect an authoritarian outlook much more than they are not likely to.
I suppose we should define what an authoritarian outlook is.
An authoritarian outlook is pretty simple. It is for someone who wants authority, order, doesn't like diversity at all, and will sacrifice liberty, quite frankly, for security. And it is a disposition that gets turned on by fear. It's always out there. There is always a certain percentage of the people who have this disposition, but it gets turned on by fear.
Right. Now, the time that this was being studied, there was a lot of interest in figuring out why people were flocking to Trump, and there was a lot of theories around it. It was, are they, poorly educated? Are they poor? Are they white? Is it race-based? Is this about, trade? Is this about, the hollowing out of the manufacturing class? And maybe those contributed to it, but why did you jump to the conclusion from this data that, in fact, it was a proclivity towards authoritarianism that was, in fact, what was drawing people to Trump?
Well, I was one of the oldest PhD students in this cosmos, at least. And
are you aware of other cosmos?
There might be another multiverse where there's someone that's older, but I was like the Chevy Chase, of the community. And I had come across this book by Mark Hetherington and Jonathan Weiler, Authoritarianism and Polarization in American Politics. And I was fascinated by it. Really fascinating book. But it was a book that was basically discounted by political science, because who would study authoritarianism? Authoritarianism is dead. And that led me to really study authoritarianism. There are thousands of articles written on authoritarianism coming out of World War II, lots of studies done. And I became more and more fascinated by it and wrote my PhD, sorry to even mention that, on authoritarianism. And as I was finishing up my PhD, I was listening to Trump. You know, he'd come down the golden escalator. And from his first speech, it was written from an authoritarian perspective. It was written to activate authoritarians.
Our country needs a truly great leader. And we need a truly great leader now. We need somebody that literally will take this country and make it great again.
Now, I don't know if he knew that, but that's what it was written for, that entire speech. The fear-mongering, the divisiveness, the separating to us versus them, the basic othering.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
And I said, well, that's kind of interesting. And then I watched him go through the fall and said, he is really pushing authoritarian buttons. Is he getting a broad enough reach? And he was, because of social media, getting a broad enough reach to reach his audience. And so I came up and said, the question is he activating authoritarians? From Hetherington's book, we knew that authoritarians had sorted from all three parties, you know, Republican, Independents, Democrats, into Republican Party. Was he reaching them? Was he activating them? So I put a poll in the field to find out.
Can we stop for a second there? Because you said that they had been sort of sorting into the Republican Party, and I want to just maybe play with that a little bit. Because a lot of the people who came to support Trump, or at least a fair number, I should say, were previously Democrats. And I think a lot of people have difficulty sort of conceiving the idea that people who identified as Democrats also have a proclivity or an inclination to support authoritarian tendencies, when in fact that is true. And Trump did activate that.
Yes, he did. My first study on this, the polling, I looked at the primary audience. So I was focusing on Republican primary voters. But you're absolutely right. Before the culture wars started, early 60s, it appears that authoritarians were pretty well sorted across parties. They started moving towards the Republican Party. This is Hetherington's book. Over time, they haven't all sorted into the Republican Party at all. But what I looked at, because this was the primary, I was doing this in November and December of 2015. I put the poll in the field. I was interested in the Republican Party itself and authoritarians in the Republican Party. And was Trump galvanizing that base? Because if he could activate and galvanize that base, it was a big enough base that he could carry and win the primary. So that's what I focused on.
Now, how much of this is all subconscious versus overt pining for authoritarianism? No one's going to say outward, well, not no one, but few people will say outwardly, yes, I really want an authoritarian. Although I will say, it's actually now it is sort of in vogue for some people to say, yes, we need a strongman. But at the time, it really wasn't. So how much of this has surprised you that people are gravitating to this, or was this always some sort of subconscious yearning that people had?
It's always there. And actually, if you look at polling, some basic questions, not authoritarian questions, but attitudinal questions.
What are some of those questions?
I agree or disagree. We need a strong leader who pays no attention to Congress or the courts to make decisions for us. That's one of the key ones. That's on the World Values Survey. It's done around the country. It's a way to measure.
That's a pretty big red flag right there.
Yeah. And when I did this, nationally it was like 34%. It's probably up to 38, 39% now. Strong leader. So there are questions like that are always answered in that way. The press, is the enemy of us. That number has grown because it gets stoked, right? Authoritarians get activated. But it's always out there. The authoritarianism is always out there. The question is if it's activated or not.
So it's always out there. And there have been historical contexts in America where it has been attempted to be activated. but it hasn't been successfully activated, at least not at this level. So what was it about this moment, this person, that made it successful, whereas others in the past maybe weren't?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. It's all about scale of communications, I believe.
So you think this is a perfect combination of authoritarianism impulses and social media platforms and a charismatic figure? Boom.
Yeah, or I don't know. Charismatic is one way to describe it. I think it's an authoritarian who just knows how to push buttons. Knows how to push the right buttons. You go back to 1919, 1920, A. Palmer Mitchell, the Attorney General. He was an authoritarian. We had the Palmer raids back then under Wilson. He wanted to be president. He was doing all the things. His othering were communist, right? He was doing all those things, but it wasn't reaching scale. Or you had McCarthy, another perfect example. He reached some scale, but there were institutions that said no. There was that important hearing where he was said, have you no
shame? Yeah.
Have you no shame? And obviously no one has shame anymore. So there are those limiting factors but with Trump, and using social media, he was able to reach that audience, and that social media platform was really supported by the 7 o'clock news, Fox, all the cable news channels, because they would cover Trump when he would come out. This is 2015, early 2016. And he would go out. He would say, go to my social media account, give them the thing. And he brought them into his echo chamber. So There was siren call. It reached scale. It was on target. It activated the authoritarian base.
I should have done my homework, but I didn't.
That's okay. I will not fail you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Gentlemen C.
Thank you. Have we, from a statistical standpoint, a polling standpoint, have we seen an uptick in people since Trump became president the first time to now, an uptick in people who identify or have exhibited characteristics that would suggest they are favorable towards authoritarianism?
No, I mean, it's a fairly stable construct. It changes over time, but that time is not political time. Okay. It's more generational time. But what we've seen, however, there's another thing. I don't know if we want to get into this underneath this sort of it's really not underneath. It's the mirror image of this. It's a thing called demographic succession.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. What that is I'm an old guy, right?
You've mentioned that.
I'm more than 60 plus. And in America, people who are more than 70 plus, septuagenarians, the greatest generation, others, 65% of them are consistent supporters of democracy when measured 5 different polling questions. By comparison, 18 to 39-year-olds, only 24% of them are consistent supporters of democracy. So, as people like me age out and go into that other multi-universe, the younger people replace us, and these younger people have much lower scores, democracy scores, which means that the environment for an authoritarian leader or dictator or anyone, oligarch, who wants to get power, it becomes more and more likely that they will or can. And it's something, you go back to Madison, Federalist 63, he talked about the infection of the violent passions and how self-interested men would try to take over the republic and destroy it or bend it to their wishes, basically. That's right. Federalist 63. And there are times when that has almost occurred in this country. It's becoming more and more likely that it can, unfortunately.
That's really uplifting.
I usually people end up crying after they listen to me. Sorry to your audience.
I want to grapple with what my colleague JVL often writes about. And it's hard for people to sort of stomach it, but I think it's worthwhile to confront, which is maybe the reason that Trump has maintained his popularity level, even amidst all this, is because people want this. This is actually what people want. And the voters are getting what they want. And as hard as that is for people who prefer the liberal democracy order to understand, As you know, even younger generations to a larger degree are inclined to support this type of governance. Is that something that people need to grapple with, that in fact we're getting what a good chunk of our population actually asked for?
Absolutely. I mean, that is so spot on. And there is, throughout American history, there's this tension between progressive moving forward and looking backwards. It's the paranoid style of politics. Hofstadter talks about that, really goes back into that. But Roger Smith and others have written about this. And there is that percentage of people out there who, for this is good when they're activated. But even worse, there's something else going on. They've got the demographic succession, but you also have this critical juncture in American history right now, which we're at. And that is, this has turned into a path-dependent process. And what I mean to that, there are increasing returns for capitulating and supporting Trump. And there are increasing punishments for not. And that's called a critical path-dependent process. And that system has been set up now, which leads to a different historical path. We are on the democratic path. Now we're on the authoritarian path. And the question is, how far does it go?
Well, the other question is, how do you get off of it?
Right. Very, very, in 2019, 2020, I was doing interviews and I'd written a book. And the question was, can we stop the rot in democracy? The rot under the fabric of democracy, the rot in the supports, the foundation of democracy. Now is, can we stop the spiraling descent into authoritarianism? Because when path-dependent process kicks in and you get these increasing returns, so all these different sectors of society are capitulating. Why? Because it's in their financial, economic, social power interest to do it. When that happens, everything starts to fold. So how do we beat this? Those of us who care about democracy, I sure as hell do. How do we beat it? And you have to look at, it's not all the Democratic Party, they have the wrong message. They have to use these magic bean words. They can't use these magic bean words. It's so much greater than that. It's so much larger. And you have to look at where the weaknesses are in the authoritarian opposition, which is beyond authoritarians right now. Now you have the fellow travelers who've joined on because it's good for them. Right. They get rewards for doing it, right?
Right.
And first, it's a minority of the population, which means that's why the next election's so important. If you rig that next election, okay, then we're going to stay on this path. Many of the people in power are incompetent. They're destructive. They're destroying important parts of the system we all depend on. They're cruel. They're greedy. They're creating collateral damage. And if that collateral damage gets large enough and you can focus on it, you might be able to beat them in an election. I mean, you should have enough votes to beat them in an election. So if an election is held, and it's fair and it's not totally rigged, you have a chance to defeat them as a ballot box. But it was like 2020. People kept asking me, okay, Biden wins, it's all over. I said, no, we're in a path right now where it's several election cycles to turn this back.
Right. It's not an elixir. 2020 was not an elixir. But you're saying essentially that some of this is really dependent on them being incompetent and failing and people kind of naturally turning against them, because you can't rely on institutions or even to a degree the opposition party itself. I mean, they have to focus the public's attention, but you can't rely on them to do the heavy lifting. And that's a very disconcerting proposition, that really what we're waiting for is for them to fuck up.
Well, we have to hope they fuck up, and I think they are fucking up, but then they're trying to cover up the fuck up.
Right.
Firing the DA, cover up the fuck up.
Mess with the numbers, firing the people. Yeah.
So we can create our own reality. It's going back, but we also have to have an organized opposition to point the spotlight on it and to focus it. And the media plays a critical role in this, and they fail. I'm sorry. I watch some of these things, and it's like people talking about, well, mayors need to partner with the Trump. No, no, you have to call the National Guard being used in a police action as wrong. We don't need that. And you have to give an alternative. I think Pritzker did a pretty good job with the alternative. Why you're cutting hundreds of millions of dollars from policing and doing this instead. I think Newsom making fun of Trump, that's a very pop culture, very smart way of doing it.
Oh, you like the Newsom approach?
Well, I like it. I also think it has to be focused on what really matters to people.
Right.
And you mess with my Social Security, people in the villages are going to go, how did that happen? And then you've got to blame it, if you're Trump, on someone else, right?
Right.
If
the deep state,
Yeah, the deep state, but you are the deep state.
So, at this point, you are the deep state, yeah.
But, how does that play out, Sam? It plays out, Trump needs, if things start unraveling, and I think the whole Bureau of Labor Statistics and others, there are great fears on their side that some bad things are coming down the pike that they have to explain away. Mm-hmm. There's only one way to get out of it if it really turns bad for him. And I think you probably know that as well as I do. You have to have a bigger problem.
Right.
If you got a mess and you can't clean it up, you have to make the mess bigger. So how does he make the mess bigger?
There's the whole wag the dog phenomenon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite movies.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, this is depressing. I appreciate it.
Sorry.
It's all right. I appreciate it, but it's depressing.
Depressing with a smile.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for doing this. Matthew McWilliams of the German Marshall Fund. He also wears a number of other hats, but we're not going to get into that. But I would encourage people to go back and read his 2016 piece for Politico and get his books. And Matthew, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It was very nice meeting you. And hello to all of your viewers.
Thank you. Hey everybody, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor at the Bulwark, and I'm about to have a lifetime achievement, or at least something I've been wanting to do forever. I'm going to talk with Andrew Kaczynski, who is of CNN. I've been a longtime fan of Andrew's, as he knows, from my constant DMs. And we're going to be talking for the first time. I think this is our first time doing something like this, right?
First time, yeah.
Oh my God. Why did we wait so long? We're going to talk about Andrew's reporting on Pete Hegseth. In particular, a couple clips that you've surfaced of, I want to call him the Department of Defense Secretary. I'm not going to Department of War. Prior in his life saying that soldiers don't have to disobey illegal orders. Andrew, before we get into it, I guess it's worth sort of setting the table why this matters, right? So why don't you give us the backstory about why it matters that Hegseth said this back in 2016 or whatever?
Well, it's because him and Trump, and Trump in particular suggested that Democratic members of Congress. I guess what he didn't suggest, right? He said it.
No, he said it.
He said it. Like we're trying to be careful sometimes and say suggest and art, but like he said it.
Yeah.
That Democratic members of Congress who said that troops didn't need to follow unlawful orders should be executed. Is that Trump said? Like he's saying, what was the?
Well, he called it sedition, and he said the punishment for sedition is execution. Right? That's the proper way to describe it. And the backstory was that there was like 6 Senate Democrats or 6 congressional Democrats who had put out a very kind of weirdly timed video or oddly timed video where they just reminded troops that you do not have to follow unlawful orders. Okay, Trump responds, and then Pete Hegseth says he's going to court-martial one in particular. And that's Senator Mark Kelly, because I guess Mark Kelly was the only one of the 6 who was he could court martial. So then, what did you find that made it hypocritical?
Well, if we go back, first last week, and the thing that's most, I guess, sort of ridiculous about all this is that what they said is just law. That is just military law. It is military law that you do not have to follow unlawful orders. It is in the Uniform Military Code of Justice. You're required to follow lawful orders, but you don't need to follow unlawful ones. So last week we found a video of Pete Hegseth giving a speech in April 2016 where he's like,
let's be honest, there's a pent-up supply of attacks on Donald Trump on the Republican side of the spectrum. A lot of people held back for a long time. Last debate, Marco Rubio did. In this debate, it was Rubio and Cruz going at Trump, and they went with the New York Times transcript, with Trump University, with offshoring jobs and ties. I mean, they were going with everything they could.
Military leaders saying you could not possibly kill the families of would-be terrorists, and they would not follow the order. And his answer, Donald Trump's answer on what if the generals won't listen to you when you say take out the families? Oh, they'll listen. That's really not the answer.
No, I got some response from vets on that saying you're not just going to follow that order if it's unlawful.
Right. Especially because what happened with the CIA last time, they end up they get legal authority to do waterboarding. Next thing you know, there's a new president and they have to go lawyer up.
Yeah.
And that was essentially the same thing that all of these Democratic senators were saying, right? Now, I remembered, and it's weird because like 2016 seems so long ago.
It is long ago. It is
long ago, right? I'm getting older. But there was one of the presidential debates that I remembered when I was like searching for this stuff because I was like, Pete Hegseth, he was like always commenting. He's always on Fox. I was like, what did he say? And there was a controversy where Trump literally said at a debate, he said he's going to bring back torture, like big time. Yeah. All right. And so I was like, what did Hegseth say around this stuff? So we went over to the Internet Archive Wayback Machine, and that's where we found that Hegseth said not once, not twice, but 3 times in comments that were, to be clear, targeting Trump. He's responding to Trump being like, the military is going to follow my orders, to say, literally direct quote, you're not going to follow an order if it's unlawful. Military is not going to follow illegal orders. And then there was a whole thing on Megyn Kelly where he's really critical of Trump, where he's calling Trump all bluster, calls him an armchair tough guy. He brings up all of his draft ferments. It's crazy to think about now. He's defending the honor of John McCain.
It's typical Trump. All bluster, very little substance. He talks a tough game, but then when pressed on it, he's an armchair tough guy. I hate to say it, but this is a guy who said that John McCain is not a war hero, yet he sought his own 5 military deferments because he says big, blustery things that people want to hear after 7 years of mom jeans from Barack Obama, who refuses to fight the enemy and frankly has restrictive rules of engagement that hurt our men and women on the battlefield. But he goes way too far, and then when the military says, we won't follow illegal orders like torture or killing families, which is not loosening the rules of engagement, he suddenly realizes, wait, I might actually be commander-in-chief. And the problem here is that voters don't know whether you get the bluster Trump, or which is the armchair tough guy, or you get the one who walks it back on a statement now and says, no, I'll follow the law.
Yeah. And he's attacking Trump, and he's like, it's funny because the exact quote that Hegseth used on Megyn Kelly is like, Trump is going to create ambiguity for the military because he's going to be like, follow my orders, and they might not follow my orders. They will follow his orders. And Hegseth's like, that's going to create ambiguity for the military. And that is like literally the same thing that he's now attacking senators for saying. He was like, the statement that they give is that they claim the Democratic senators created this process where now, there's ambiguity around should we follow this order. And that's literally almost exactly what Pete Hegseth was saying in these clips.
And that's why we expect that Hegseth will court-martial himself at this point, right? No. You've watched more clips than probably anyone in human history. I think it might be helpful to sort of get people reoriented about what 2016 Republican primary Fox News was. This is pre-Trump emerging as the candidate. It was like, exactly. Early on.
Well, this is March. Okay, so this happens in March. All right.
Yeah.
And I had totally forgotten about there had been at this point, I think Marco Rubio is still in. John Kasich is still in.
Oh yeah, he was like the last to go. He was eating a bunch of Italian food on the trail.
Eating a bunch of Italian food in Brooklyn, New York. Just staying in, living his best life. We'd had the first Super Tuesday. All right. And the first Super Tuesday, Trump won most of the delegates. And this is before, there was Super Tuesday 2. And maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but I think that's when Trump wins Florida and Rubio drops out.
Yeah.
But that's where we are when we're having this debate. And, it's Fox too. It's Megyn Kelly is really she's the one who's like bringing the people on. It's funny because you have even Pete Hegseth. So Pete Hegseth's like long time like crusade almost. There have been stories on this. Has been like, we need to like loosen the rules of engagement for troops. And so it's like you have Pete Hegseth who's like, he literally says even for Pete Hegseth, Trump has gone too far with what he's saying. All right. And then you have like Carl Higbie who's on the other side who's like defending Trump. And so it's like you have those two going at each other. One is defending Trump, one is like attacking Trump. And even for Pete Hegseth, Trump has gone too far in these clips.
So I want to peel back the curtain a little bit. Then I want to get into your kind of process. The reason I want to book you on is there's an internal Bulwark Slack thing happening here, which is, when this first happened and Hegseth was like, I'm court-martialing Mark Kelly. I slacked internally with some folks. I was like, I wonder if Pete Hegseth back in the day was like, we can't, troops can't, can disobey unlawful orders. Like, or I imagine he had said it around Obama, where it's like, you don't have to obey an Obama order. And there was a colleague here, I'm not going to name names, Andrew Egger, who was like, no way. He's like, Hegseth's all for like, let the guys torture, let them do what they want. Exactly. Ain't no way. And now so basically you proved that I'm clairvoyant and you made Andrew look silly internally. And that's the entire reason I'm doing this video.
That's what I thought too. I was like, because I was like searching around and I was like, I wasn't even thinking about Hegseth. All right. When I was looking for the clips, I was thinking anybody connecting Trump, Pam Bondi. New York Times had a great story today about how Pam Bondi also filed like a court briefing or something saying troops can't disobey.
I missed that one.
Yeah. I know, right? There's like so much going on. But I was like, so I wasn't even necessarily looking for Hegseth, and he was the one that I found. But I had a very large, because when he picked Hegseth, I was sort of like, I was like, oh my God, because like there's so much to go through, because he's been on Fox for forever. Yeah. He's doing speeches for forever. And it's like,
well, can I ask you about that?
Yeah, sure.
What's your process here? Like, I mean, I've always sort of marveled at your ability to dive through this stuff. And honestly, I've tried to, on occasion, emulate it with just a bunch of like way back machine searches and, LexisNexis back when I used that stuff, and just a lot of Google stuff. But like, what's your process for doing a search like that?
I mean, at least for Hegseth, the way we found these additional clips was I went to the archive.org, Internet Wayback Machine, which has television. They have the internet, but they also have television archived going all the way back to 2010. It's an amazing resource. Yeah. And I went and searched, and their like transcripts aren't perfect. So like my name, like Kaczynski, is never coming up on the transcripts. But I searched like unlawful. I looked after I found the initial clip last week, because I already had that saved, because I made a huge database of all Pete Hegseth old comments when he was selected to see what has he said, who is this guy, what does he believe. All right. Yeah. And so I found the first clip, about 2 weeks ago, but then I was like, I want to really target this whole controversy at the debate. There is no way that Pete Hegseth, Fox News contributor at the time, always talking about military affairs, there's no way that he did not comment on this. Right. So I went back and I went to the Internet Archive Wayback Machine. I popped in the exact date and I searched just, I put in Pete, and then I like the search string and I put like unlawful orders, and it pulled up, at least 3 clips of him talking about this on Fox News, Fox Business. There's probably more. But I kind of thought 3 was enough to like get the point across that this is what he said. Do your eyes start to glaze over ever? Like, do you have bad vision? Or you just how do you like? I mean, we're all just staring at screens. We're all staring at screens all day, right? That's a good point. You would think it would have materialized now if it was going to affect your vision. I mean, it probably is. I wear pretty intense contact lenses. But.
And if it's not on TV, but like the other piece you had was a speech he gave, right? Like that was not a TV appearance.
It's on YouTube. I think I found it through like Facebook or something. Facebook is a really good place to find stuff, dude.
And they have a good search engine? You can do good searches through there?
Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm not really sure why it doesn't work sometimes. They have a really good date search.
Do you still get the thrill when you uncover like a good nugget like that, or has that worn off at all?
I mean, sometimes, like
I was hoping you'd say, yeah, it still gets me jazzed.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like it's important. I still get,
it's very, Yeah, but nice discovery like that. I guess there's a philosophical question though, I suppose, that's worth asking, which is like, you've uncovered so much hypocrisy over the course of your career, and it's great. I mean, it's important. I think that actually is valuable. Like, this stuff is valuable. I don't want you to feel, distressed about it, but like, at the same time, does it act? It feels like it increasingly doesn't matter in politics, where it's like, oh yeah, Pete Hegseth like took a diametrically different position 9 years ago on this issue. Now he wants to court-martial someone for something he himself said. And it's just like, we're going to keep going on with our routines.
Yeah.
Right?
I still think it's important, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's important. Like, we know that he is, especially because like, at least in this particular instance, the harshness in which he's going after, I mean, Trump suggested these people should be executed. Like, he was retruthing. Didn't he retweet someone who said they should be hung? Like, so it's like, it is important, at least in this instance, because like they stated the uniform military code of justice, and Pete Hegseth, as we've seen now, has done that at least 4 times, and 3 of the instances is like, look, like, he singled out Trump. He said Trump might be somebody who issues unlawful orders, and if he does, they shouldn't be obeyed.
Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate your work. Okay.
Thank you. It's
you have
good
one
to be
person,
appreciated.
one person out there at least who appreciates what you're doing. No, it's been a pleasure, man. I've always wanted to have you on. I'm sorry it took forever to get you booked.
Let's do it again.
Would you do it again?
Yeah,
this hasn't been too
anytime.
painful?
I'm available. We put this together in like, I don't know, it's 5:00. We put this together in like 2 hours. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. It would be a joy. Andrew Kaczynski of CNN. You guys got to go read his work whenever he does something. It's fantastic. Andrew, thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it. Hey, everyone. It's me, Sam Stein, managing editor of the Bulwark, joined by Tim Miller, our, what is your even title? Our founder extraordinaire.
I was not a founder. Came in late. I'm the host of the Bulwark podcast, commentator, talent, takes man.
Takes man is a good one. Okay, let's go with takes man. I consider you a founder. Anyways, we're here to talk about Joe Rogan, the Iran war, and whether or not this actually signals something bigger. I know there's been a lot of talk about what like MAHA and if they're like support of the war and whatever. We're going to get into all that on this Bulwark Takes. Tim, today Rogan's going on his pod. It's a multiple hour affair, but a couple clips that surfaced which were interesting and I guess somewhat expected considering how he's felt about this stuff in the past, where he finally addresses what's happening in Iran. Let's play the 15-second clip because I think that one is more interesting, where he talks about the feeling of betrayal that folks have over what is happening in Iran.
What just seems so insane based on what he ran on. I mean, this is why a lot of people feel betrayed, right? He ran on no more wars and these stupid, senseless wars, and then we have one that we can't even really clearly define why we did it.
All right. How many times can this man feel betrayed? Like, I feel like this is like the 6th or 7th betrayal that Joe Rogan has endured over Donald Trump. And at some point, I feel like Joe Rogan should just do an hour podcast where he just talks to himself in the mirror about like what happened.
I think he's processing. And just in the spirit of radical candor, I've not consumed the 2 to 3 hour Joe Rogan interview with Michael Schellenberger, and I do not intend to. But I did talk to our guy, Brendan, who watched a lot of it, just so I had a greater, fuller picture beyond what was happening in these little clips. And one of the things that Brendan said to me was that it was kind of testy. The interview was kind of testy because Schellenberger, if you don't know him, he's kind of a Rogan-esque figure, but in the like policy space. He was like a lefty environmentalist type that like became big contrarian around COVID and around woke stuff. And so he kind of went down that same pipeline.
He's a free presser.
Yeah, in the policy space, right? And it was interesting that Schellenberger remains like pretty defensive of Trump across all of these metrics because Schellenberger feels betrayed by the left, fairly or unfairly. And so it's interesting that like that dynamic was such that like would make Rogan testy. Right? And I think that's telling about this cognitive dissonance that you're talking about, Sam, where it's like, he's like, wait a minute, like at some level, say what you want about Joe Rogan. I think he at least had convinced himself that he was not being a hack, that he was on a authentic ideological journey from being a Bernie curious cultural conservative bro dude to being, like MAGA friendly because they had common agreements on a few things.
Sure.
And among the top thing on that list was not going into stupid Middle East wars.
Right.
And so you can imagine how somebody who really cares, who that is something that they see as a defining issue of themselves, of their own ideology. You could see how that person could go from being for Obama, being anti-Iraq war, to being Bernie curious, to all of a sudden saying like, look, this bipartisan establishment keeps taking us into fucking stupid wars. And here's this outsider guy who doesn't. Like you can at least see how he could self-conceive as like, this was a rational trajectory for me. And now he has to sit in the stew of the fact that bet was wrong and that he got duped and he got fooled by Trump. And you can see how that might make him testy. And you can see why that would have him leaning into like this notion of betrayal, where it was not him that misjudged Trump. It was Trump that is betraying his people.
I suppose. I also think the other thing here is okay, there are three real main issues here that have been the source of betrayal for Rogan. There's this one. There's the Epstein files, which was another animating issue for a lot of these folks. Like they had to get to the bottom of the Epstein files, and Trump was going to get to the bottom of the Epstein files. And they promised to get to the bottom of the Epstein files. The other one is immigration, where, they, deluded themselves, convinced themselves, whatever you want to say, that Trump would just go after the bad guys and then we're going to have immigration raids across the country and people were being hysterical. And I think this is what probably gets them. I have no idea. I would love to know. But like during 24, a lot of the pushback against the Rogan types was, no, you're wrong. Like Trump obviously is going to do mass deportations. He's cavalier on foreign policy. He'll probably get us into some sort of ridiculous dick measuring contest with someone. He's not going to solve these wars. And like, good luck with the Epstein files. It's probably ain't going to happen, right? And so I think some of the testiness is that he has to, or he should admit, like, yeah, my detractors, the people who were telling me that I was being kind of naive and stupid about this stuff, were right. And that's really hard to do, right? You don't want to admit that the people who are like yelling at you.
So you go to black pill space.
What is black pill space?
Nihilism. You go to the space where it's just like, look, I was not, but I did not show judgment wrong. I was betrayed. And I'm going to continue to be betrayed because no matter who you put in there, whether it's Republicans or Democrats or populists or not, like there's some deep state Borg out there that is going to make them all do this stuff. And I think I think that's where this is headed. I think that's what a lot of these guys are going to convince themselves of. And they're going to become nihilistic and jaded and want to check out of the political system. And I'm going to tell you, the political system might have been better off when they were checked out in the first place. And so I don't know that that's bad. I don't think that we should necessarily see that as bad. And some people, my boy Theo Von, like some people weren't meant for politics,
Right.
Theo Von, like we've done this before. He crushed it interviewing the Amish kid. That's great. That's funny. It's like, Theo asking some Amish kid, like, hey, have you ever played Nintendo? That's good. That's good material. Talking to the vice president, not as strong. And it seems like these guys' instincts doesn't seem like. It's pretty clear these guys' radar antenna was way off when it comes to MAGA. And I would love for them to see the light and see that it was the MAGA people in particular that betrayed them. But I think more likely is that they kind of start to go back to their world of non-paying attention. I
was just an addendum on Theo because, yes, I think you're right. And yet at the same time, when he has Bobby Kennedy Jr. on talking about snorting lines of coke off a toilet seat, like I kind of like that content too.
Good content.
Honestly. Yeah. I talked to Will Sommer a lot about this, I should say, about like sort of the people who get sucked into conspiracies. Cause it was especially true on the Epstein stuff where like everyone was waiting for this great reveal and then it didn't come because Trump was just not allowing the documents to be released. And so I remember I was like, Will, how do they sort of rationalize this stuff, right? Like they put all their hopes in Trump doing this and then he didn't do it. Like, aren't they mad at Trump? And he said exactly what you said, which is that they just concoct a larger conspiracy. Like Trump is actually like a bit player in this. Like the real forces are even bigger than Trump, and they're controlling Trump, and like it's not his fault. And I guess in the Iran stuff, I know we're not playing the clip.
This is where your people come back in, Israel.
But yeah, it comes back to the Jews. But in the Iran stuff, like there's this new line out there. It's like, well, look, Lindsey Graham, he's just influencing Donald Trump, and like he's got way too much influence, and we just got to get Lindsey Graham out of there. It's like, yo, Donald Trump is the president. He can do what he wants. If he's getting influenced this easily by Lindsey fucking Graham, then maybe you should rethink your priors about Donald Trump, right?
Yeah, that is true, and they're not going to do it. Here, let's take it out of politics. David Frum, sure. I'm stealing this from David Frum, but he's good on this. It always resonated with me. He said, God, he must have said this on our podcast 7 years ago, because time is a flat circle, and we're all living the same thing over and over again. I was still living in California, because I can remember listening to this, being in California, being like, oh yeah, that's right. And he's like, imagine somebody in your life that gets scammed by they purchase the condo in the Everglades, or their friend comes to them with an investment idea, and they put a bunch of money and maybe a little more than they can afford, and things start to go bad. And you go up to them as your friend and you say, hey, bro, like you got scammed by this guy. Like you got what is their reaction going to be? 9 times out of 10, there's some people who are bigger than this, but 9 times out of 10, the person's going to be mad at you for calling them out for the scam, right? They're not going to, they're going to think about how there's some other factor at play and like, whatever, fuck you for judging me. You know what I mean? And like, I think that human instinct to not want to like, look inside and accept that somebody pulled one over on you. I think that's what we're seeing with Joe Rogan.
There was a famous story, and I wish I had it in front of me, about this professor, like an academic, smart guy. Obviously, he was a college professor who fell for one of these Nigerian prince scams. Do you remember this story? No, you don't remember the story? Mm-mm. And he lost all his money. And even though he had been presented evidence that he had been scammed and he lost all this money, he continued to believe that the scammer was real. Like he could not get around the idea that this person was just like some, jackass on the other side of the internet telling him to like give up.
He was a prince.
Yeah, or something like that. Like, and he's like, no. This person really is in a heap of trouble, and I have to help. So I think there's something to it. Back to the war itself. So let's play the other clip of Rogan warning about World War III, and then I have some thoughts at the flip side of that.
The whole situation internationally has been so tense already, with what's going on in Gaza, with what's going on in Ukraine. It's like, and to add this to the pile, it's like, I mean, it genuinely feels like there's a real possibility that we might be entering World War III.
Okay, so I don't know if we're entering World War III. I happen to think we're not. But I do think there's something to the other elements of what he's talking about, which is the sense of just things completely out of control. I have my theory of politics. I've said it a million times, probably to you too, where it's like all elections to me are sort of reactions to the last elections. And I think that's why Biden won in 2020, honestly, because people were just like, this is just too much. COVID, all this shit, the economy fucking sucking, Trump and all this chaos. Like, let's just get the old steady man in there. And I think people like Rogan look at this and like, geez, like oil's going up, oil's going down, jobs are going down, Trump's acting crazy. We have all these, flashpoints across the globe. And I think there is a constituency out there that's just like, I want off this ride. I want normalcy. I don't want to have to think about politics every waking minute. And I think that's underrated a little bit when we have our discussions. People are just tired of it.
I have 2 reactions to that. I want to come back to World War III, so don't let us
we'll come back
talking about that. But to this, I think it's underappreciated how much people felt that way under Biden. And I think that some viewers of this will feel like that's unfair, and that's fine. But I think that there were a lot of voters that had the sense that inflation was out of control. What Rogan just laid out. Ukraine was happening, Gaza was happening, and we've got this old guy who, whatever, God love him, he might be well-intended, but he's lost a step, and he's asleep at the switch, and things are spiraling. And I happen to think that's unfair because I think that just, especially in America, like we have this strange perception of the president as like a omnipotent, omniscient being that can fix every world problem. And like, sometimes it ain't about us. Like, I don't really think that Ukraine or Gaza was really about us. Like, could he have handled those things a little better? Sure. But like, the fact that they happened, I don't think was because old man Biden was in there. I think it would have happened anyway. But from a voter standpoint, you look at the world and you think, man, shit, like, things are really expensive. My community crime is up a little bit. It started to come down in the end. But you know what I mean? Like, around the world, things are out of control. And I think that they looked back at Trump 19 pre-COVID, and they're like, things were calmer back then. Like, Trump was crazy. Like, it's weird. Like, we all know that Trump's insane, but like, I think a lot of voters looked at it and was like, Trump was crazy, and there were tweets and weird shit happening, but like, generally things were calmer. And I do think that hurt Biden and then Harris eventually a lot, and I do think that is hurting Trump now. I think that people have like a goldfish element.
Here's a thought exercise. I thought about this a fair bit actually over the weekend. Let's say this was happening right now under Biden or Harris, and it's 2023, okay?
Yep.
I'm talking about Iran. How would Donald Trump be reacting to this? What would he be saying?
They're stupid. They don't know how to handle this. This would never have started if it wasn't for me. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's no...
He would have been like I would have had this negotiated. It would have been settled. Yeah. Why are we putting U.S. troops in harm's way? He can't cut a deal. Yeah. You know, he would have done exactly that. He would have absolutely
cut the perfect deal, and we wouldn't be in the. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure.
I think people don't appreciate that was Trump's MO. I could settle this chaos before it ever gets to chaos. And now he can't make that case, right? Like, he's causing the chaos. So it was reported today, White House basically confirmed it. About 140 U.S. service members have been injured in this war with Iran. That includes 8 who are seriously injured. That's not including the 7 who have died. We also get word today that the administration says it's used $5.6 billion in munitions during the first 2 days of strikes in Iran. Then you have the stuff reports that the Iranians are potentially putting mines in the Strait of Hormuz, and Trump saying, well, I'm going to just blow them to smithereens if they do that. You have Chris Wright, the energy secretary, tweeting that the strait's open, then deleting the tweet, and the oil spiking and going back and forth. It's chaos. It's like pure chaos right now, which I guess leads back to your point about World War III. What's the point you want to make?
It's chaos and it's lying too. Just one more thing on the lying, covering up. You know, they've been non-candid with us about the other injuries and other things that have been happening. That they've been trying to push that stuff under the rug. The point I wanted to make about World War III, I also don't think that this is World War III. I don't think it's a 0% chance, I guess I would say. I think it's an extremely low chance, but I don't think it's going to happen. But you know, the butterfly flap its wings thing is real. Like, sometimes it ain't in your control. Like, there are other counterparties out there, you know, and if fucking Iran decides to get crazy or China start, like, who the hell knows, right? What could happen? I think sometimes, you know, I don't think that when Franz Ferdinand was killed, people thought that we were going to end up in World War I. So sometimes these things are not predictable, but I don't think we're going to World War III. It was satisfying to hear Joe Rogan say that, though, because so many of these guys, the amateur bro podcasters, as well as the amateurish podcasters, as well as like the isolationist Republican types, the MAGA, America First, the JD Vance types, those Republicans, during that period with Biden, from 22, 23, 24, they were throwing this shit around all the time. And like, Biden was fucking, honestly, like, if you just look back at it with 2020 vision of being able to look back at the past, Biden should have given Ukraine more weapons, right? Because Ukraine was much more able to defend itself than anybody thought, and potentially, like, Russia could have been stopped earlier, and the U.S. didn't want to give them offensive weapons. We don't really know. We're not 100% sure. Who knows? You get counterfactuals. Who the hell knows what could have happened? But I think that, but the America First right wingers and the podcast bros were out there being like, Biden's really risking nuclear war here. How can we be helping Ukraine at all? Like, we should just letting Russia have Ukraine because World War III could be imminent. World War III could be any day. We never got in we were never sniffing World War III during the Biden administration. And then right now, like, while we aren't on the brink of World War III by any means, we're certainly, I would say, a step closer than we were when Biden was providing defensive weapons to Ukraine after they got invaded by Russia. And so it's nice that there's at least somebody out there who is peddling that shit. in 2022
Well,
is also peddling it now. I like that. I appreciate that consistency.
I think your boy David Sachs was the one who always was tweeting about World War III. He has not said jack shit about what's happening in Iran, I guess, because he's crypto.
There was a really good tweet somebody sent the other day, which was, it's sad
Just a bunch
David
of
Sachs has
screenshots?
passed away. No, it was like, it's sad that David Sachs has passed away because he would have so much to say about this war right now in Iran.
I know. I thought David Sachs was a poster at heart, but apparently not. He lost his touch. What the fuck, David?
Hasn't posted. That's a retweet. Let's find the last original. People don't know David Sachs was the All In podcast. He's a VC bro, went pro-Trump, is in the administration now as Trump's
Still
AI
podcasting.
czar. His last tweet that he sent himself, not a retweet, was March 4.
Come on. 6 days?
6
David.
days ago. Not a lot to say from him lately. JD's also been pretty quiet on the Twitter.
Yeah, he has.
JD has been. I saw some of JD spokespeople doing the thing that I used to do when I didn't want my candidate to go out and talk about something, which was, "What are you talking about? You know, what are you guys talking about? He did that. Like, he went to that coffee shop this morning and he did this friendly interview over here. Like, what do you mean he's not been out there answering questions about his gaffe on the Iraq war?" No. JD has not sent, he sent one tweet yesterday.
He was supposed to do a town hall.
Yeah, he canceled his town hall.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nada.
Nothing. Okay. Well, we're waiting. All right, buddy. Good to speak to you. Always a pleasure. Thank you for founding the Bulwark.
Not quite. Might as well. It wouldn't have happened without me, so I'm kind of a founder.
Love you all. Talk to you later.
Hey, everybody, it's Tim Miller on the Bulwark Takes feed with managing editor Sam Stein. I am taking the wheel as the driver of this Bulwark Take because Sam was just having a meltdown like I've never seen in the Grey Room. Bill O'Reilly style meltdown over his audio and visual not working. Cussing. It was truly magical. I wish we had recorded it for you guys.
What are you supposed to do when every bit of audio just doesn't work other than just go crazy? And I went crazy. And I
just haven't seen you lose your cool like that. Sometimes, and it's good to know it's in there. Every once in a while people are like, Sam isn't mad enough. And it's usually not your nature. You're an even keel guy. So it's good to know.
I try to be. But when your external headphones and then the plugins don't work, just can set someone off, I guess.
It's good to know that you're a man like everyone else. You breathe. We got blood pumping through your veins. Okay. Donald Trump, not a man like everyone else.
What a segue.
In the Oval Office today, in a gold tie, strangely, very strange, out of his normal uniform. And he was there with the Vice President, J.D. Vance, as well. They took some Q&A, some hard-hitting questions from Peter Doocy at Fox News and others. And I guess there are three clips in particular we wanted to talk about. But overall, I was on Nicole as this was happening, and I noticed something come in from my friend John Lovett over at Cricket Media, who was just like, anyone who thinks that we should fund this man's war, must be forced to watch this whole press conference Clockwork Orange style, because it just betrays somebody that does not have any connection with the real world, and that's pretty concerning given the stakes here.
What part set Lovett off? Because there was 5.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. So I'm curious. So you having watched the whole thing before we get into the clips, what struck you?
Well, he's got a fairly acute case of ADD because he can't stay on topic. So there was actually 2 events today. One was he did the Kennedy Center board meeting, which is really just his best buddies who are going to do it.
Well, and that's where he discussed how Rick Grinnell was pounding people.
Yeah, I saw your tweet on that.
He had been fired. Rick Grinnell was fired from the Kennedy Center board. Rick Grinnell wanted to be the Secretary of State. He wanted to be the Vice President. That was the reporting. Rick Grinnell.
Rick wanted to be Vice President?
Only gay friend, yeah. Wanted to be Vice President, then wanted to be Secretary of State. He's so detestable in interpersonal relationships that Susie Wiles was like, I cannot be on conference calls with this man. He cannot be in the cabinet. So he got pushed aside. He didn't get a job. His job that he was then eventually given was stereotypically the head of the arts theater. And he turned people off so much there that he had to be pushed aside from that as well. And explaining what happened, Trump was talking about how Rick was giving the artists a pounding. And that's, maybe not what you should be doing at work, in the workplace.
And I saw, I saw how you picked up on that news.
So anyway, that was one press conference.
Yeah. Well, let's just pause for a second, because we're in the middle of this war, and things are dicey. I'm being charitable. And this man is just like spending a couple hours in the middle of his day talking about the marble seating at the Kennedy Center. It's just like, you kind of sit back, you're like, okay, why are we doing any time whatsoever on this? So that was one thing. And then the other thing is just, he's pressed on sort of, well, you've destroyed them, but you haven't. And you said countries are going to help us, but they aren't. And it's just like, there's absolutely no details or specifics. So it's like, well, what countries are you talking to? And he's like, well, I don't want to say. It's like, well, who are you talking to? Everyone's really complimentary of how we're doing things. Did you anticipate this stuff? Of course we did. It's like, I don't know what Lovett was referring to, but at various points I was just like, just doesn't seem like he's on top of it.
You don't say.
No.
Okay, well, there are a couple of clips in particular from social media that caught my eye, and so I would like to play those. I guess we'll start first with with two clips from Trump himself, and then one from JD. The first one I want to play is he gets asked a question by Ducey, kind of about whether some of this should have been foreseeable, and he doesn't think so. Let's watch.
You were talking about Iran a couple times today and what they did after
Get out of the shot.
Fury began. You said they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia,
Get out of the shot.
Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. Are you surprised that nobody briefed you ahead of time that might be their retaliation?
Nobody, no. The greatest experts, nobody thought they were going to hit. They were, I wouldn't say friendly countries. They were like neutral. They lived with them for years. Peter, they were going to take over the Middle East. They were going to knock out Israel with their nuclear weapon. But after we knocked out their nuclear potential weapon, they started building missiles, thousands and thousands of missiles. And they were going to do it with missiles while they developed. These are sick people.
Now, there's a lot to unpack there.
Is there?
Yeah, because at the top level, it's just like a total hallucination about like what it really was happening in the Middle East, and that's a problem. I guess there are a few elements. Number one, nobody expected Iran to attack the other countries in the Middle East, where we have bases. And they did this last time. It's just like they attacked the other countries where we have bases last time. Anybody who knew anything about the region knew that Iran would do that. Then there's the element about they're going to nuke Israel. I don't know. I guess let's focus first on the Arab countries. The fact that Trump said nobody expected this, nobody briefed him on it, totally blindsided.
One, you're right. Like they did this last time. They attacked all these countries. And two, I have a feeling like I'm my guess is that we're going to get like some sort of white paper that was produced by the NSC. That's like, actually, this is exactly what we expected. It reminds me of the Strait of Hormuz thing where it's just like, well, no one could have anticipated that they'd shut down the strait. And then it turns out, that's like in every single game planning scenario for how the Iranians would deal with this. So I don't think that one's going to hold up particularly well.
And it continues. I mean, I'm just looking at this as we're talking right now, as we're taping this, as he was talking this afternoon on Monday, Iran hit today an oil and gas field in the UAE, hit an oil field in Iraq. Saudi Arabia is being targeted by drone swarms.
So I will say, I found it at first kind of surprising that the Iranians were doing this, right? It's because conventionally, like, well, why would you widen the war and bring in more countries potentially? But it's clear. I mean, I don't think they did this non-strategically, right? I think they clearly calculated, like, we're going to make this painful for everyone involved, and we're going to go after U.S. assets in the region, and we're going to make oil so expensive that these countries are going to cry uncle. And I think that's essentially what they're doing.
And
right?
that is, and JVL wrote about this last week in his track. You can go read it. Like, that is like, obviously was going to be their strategy. Maybe not the specifics of every, tactic, but like this notion of we're going to make this painful. We can't beat them in a war of like who bombs who more. We're going to get points on the board for like most successful missiles landed. Like they're not going to win that against the United States and Israel, but you can cause enough pain that the United States and Israel decides it's not worth it, or the United States in particular decides it's not worth it.
Or the Arab countries are just like, hey, make this stop.
The Arab countries Trump's in business with and that he's allies with. So there's that. I do just want to sit for one more second on the Israel thing, because Trump keeps doing the thing, and they keep doing the thing where they say that they did the war for Israel, which I don't think is helpful to their mission or toward their ally Israel or anything. And Trump just being like, yeah, Iran was going to nuke Israel. And then so we had to do it. And they were going to go. And they had, I forget exactly what Trump said, but something about how they were going to go take over the whole region. And it's like they weren't. The Iranian regime was as weak as they have been in decades. Right. And like we had supposedly obliterated their nuclear program. Like the idea that like not even the most hawkish Likud people in Israel, I don't think would say that they like we're going to get nuked imminently.
Well, maybe the most hawkish would, honestly. So let's separate two things here. One is I do think certainly for the Israelis, and I think there is a strand of foreign policy thinking that's like, yeah, this was an actual legitimate threat in the medium term, maybe even the short term to the Israelis. That is distinct from what Trump is actually saying here, which is that they were looking for Middle East domination. And on top of that, if Israel attacked them, they would attack us, which means we had to attack first.
Yeah.
Rubio said that. That's a totally different strand of intervention, right? That's not nuclear prevention. That's like, oh, we're being dragged into this war because this other country wants to attack Iran, and we're going to suffer the consequences of it. And I do think you're right to say this is not a particularly helpful strand of argument that the administration is making, because one, it means that we are basically forfeiting, if you take it to a logical extent, we're forfeiting our foreign policy decisions to another country. And two, it's absolutely turning public opinion against Israel in the United States. So
and against Trump. Just like America First, right? I mean, certainly like the the less ideologically committed America First people.
100%.
Against it. I was listening to the Tim Dillon podcast this weekend, and he would say he's not so keen. And he had dinner with J.D. Vance not so long ago. We're going to get back to J.D. Vance in a second. But first, one of the things, Trump's looking for validators out there. Okay. He's grasping around. He came to the defense of micropenis Mark Levin. Mark Levin has been maybe the most hostile host to Trump on Fox. Not that hostile, but like not particularly a big MAGA guy, more of an old school neocon type guy. Trump and Mark Levin are pals now because Mark keeps saying nice things with or Trump. Like they blasted out Ben Shapiro's comments from the press office today, and so they're looking for allies. Trump offered another secret private validator. Today, let's show that.
I just want to ask you about something very interesting that you said twice today. That you talked to another former president about the Iran strikes.
I did.
Was it George W. Bush?
No.
Was it Bill Clinton?
I don't want to say. I don't want to say because
Barack Obama.
a member of a party, they have Trump derangement syndrome, but it's somebody that happens to like me, and I like that person who's a smart person. But that person said, I wish I did it. Okay, but I don't want to get into who.
Okay.
I don't want to get him into trouble. Maybe, hey,
I have a guess.
You know what? Yeah, I think you probably know. It's interesting. And maybe he'd be proud. And I could even ask him that. Would you like me to reveal your name to Peter at Fox? Well, at least you have high ratings. Your ratings are through the roof, Peter.
Yes, thank you for noticing.
Congratulations.
That's the president of the United States. I mean, he's very low energy. He's kind of the dentures feel like they're shaking around.
Coming out a little bit.
He's talking about an imaginary conversation, maybe a conversation. I guess we should start with the imaginary president that told him that he wished he did it. Maybe it was Trump speaking to himself in the mirror because he was also a former president. That's one theory.
That's it. Okay, go on.
Okay, well, let's go through the other possibles. Definitely not Joe Biden. Okay,
it's not Joe. If it was Joe Biden, my head will fucking explode.
They probably put Joe Biden's picture up in the White House. Joe Biden's asleep a lot, and so
maybe he talked to the auto pen and thought it was Joe Biden. I don't know.
The auto pen isn't nice. Was not Barack Obama.
He said it wasn't Barack Obama. He said it wasn't Barack.
Well, he said it wasn't George W. Bush.
Oh, sorry, he said it wasn't George Bush.
He said it wasn't George W. Bush. He said it was from someone from the other party that has Trump derangement syndrome. Bill Clinton is the only possible candidate here.
Okay.
And I think we should just bat that around for a second.
Sure.
Hillary has at times, there's this old clip going around from her from I think last year. People on social media were misinterpreting it as recently, but clip going around of her complimenting some of Trump's foreign policy stuff. So the Clintons aren't above that. Bill and Trump both have the Epstein thing in common. Trump's been nice to Bill a bunch recently on that.
He has. He has.
Being
Yeah.
like, they shouldn't go after him on this. So I wouldn't be surprised if they talked because of that. Bill likes to talk. I'm just saying, if it were someone, it would be Bill. The Clinton team has put out a statement that Bill Clinton has not talked to Trump about Iran, which was, I think, a interestingly precise statement.
I mean, it opens the door to them talking, right?
Yeah. What have they talked about? I do wonder.
I don't know.
It kind of raises more questions than it answers, that statement. But anyway, what do you think? Could it possibly be Bill Clinton telling him that he wishes he invaded Iran?
I mean, usually how these things work is that there's like a tiny, 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 tiny kernel of truth, and Trump just absolutely exaggerates. Like, for instance, today at the Kennedy Center event, Trump just blurted out that he warned way before 9/11 happened that Osama bin Laden was going to, knock down the Twin Towers, which he did not do. In his book, he had some mention about Osama bin Laden being a shadowy figure that we should have our eyes on, but he never warned about the Twin Towers. But Trump has this thing where he takes a little tiny kernel of truth and kind of weaves some threads. So there's possibility that maybe like a couple months ago, a couple years ago, I don't know, something that Bill Clinton, he talked and Bill Clinton said, one thing I wish I had done. That's pretty good. Right?
Seems like he and Bill talked.
Well, they clearly talked
since the Epstein stuff.
It wasn't Biden, it wasn't Obama, and maybe they didn't talk. Maybe they did talk after the Epstein stuff came out. But I don't think Bill was like, "Hey, I wish I had bombed Iran."
The whole thing is pretty bizarre.
Wait, why are you not complimenting my Bill? And that's the first time I've done a Bill impersonation. I think it's pretty good.
It was pretty good. It was
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I don't want to gas you up too much. Just the rest of it, because the last comes from JD. Just overall, again, he doesn't seem to be like too sharp. I guess the president is just another observation.
He's
there.
riffing,
and that was
dude.
a very rambly riff, though. It's low energy. He looks tired. That's pretty concerning.
I am concerned. Again, though, my main concern is not necessarily that he's got low energy, which, whatever. He's playing a lot of golf. He's doing Kennedy Center stuff. He's, bleeding about random shit. My concern is that he can't keep attention and that he's just drifting into weird pockets. And normally that you can live with that because whatever, that's him. But in this case, I think the stakes are sufficiently high that I would like him to, well, maybe I don't want him to pay attention. I don't know. I am torn about that. I wish he was more on the ball. Let's put it that way.
Doesn't seem like he's getting good info. And here is another, maybe a little bit piece of evidence of that. JD Vance, standing over Trump's shoulder, is asked about his past statements about Iran, whether it has any concerns. He does, the hall monitor finger wag thing. It's hard for me to watch JD, really.
I know it gets your blood going.
Let's just do it. He's just so unfucking annoying.
Are already calling you the fraud czar. What's your reaction to that title? And then second,
Good title.
Second, given
I like
your past skepticism of foreign adventurism, are you completely on board with the current war in Iran?
So I like fraud czar. It's certainly what we're going to do. And look, we have to do it. As the president said, this is a problem that has festered in this country for far too long, and far too few people have actually wanted to do anything about it. That's what makes this administration different, is that we actually tackle the problems the American people have been confronting. So I'm very happy about it.
A lot of fraud
look,
tackling.
I think that I know what you're trying to do, Phil. You're trying to drive a wedge between members of the administration, between me and the president. What the president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We have taken this military action under the president's leadership. I think all of us, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, should pray for its success and pray for the safety of our troops. That's the approach that I've taken. Make it as successful as possible.
So there's no hesitation, given your past statements, with the current operation?
What do you mean there's no hesitation with my past statements?
Given your skepticism of foreign adventurism, you were a critic of the global war on terror previously.
Well, I think one big difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents. And I trust President Trump to get the job done, to do a good job for the American people, and to make sure that the mistakes of the past aren't repeated. Absolutely.
That's fascinating. I know you hate the guy, but that was a really fascinating clip. Okay, so he's asked a pretty simple question. are you on board with this operation? Are you on board? It's a yes or no question. And he never says yes, ever. Never says yes. And then he's asked a follow-up question. He's like, so there's no hesitations. And he never says, no hesitations. He says, I trust Donald Trump's leadership where others have failed. He says, we should all be praying for success. And he says, you're trying to drive a wedge between me and Donald Trump. Never once does he say, I support what's happening here. Ever. Wild.
He's good at weasel words. He's very good at weasel words.
I don't think that was that good. I think he's deliberately trying to create distance. I think he's deliberately trying to not have his fingerprints on this.
It's not going to work.
No, of course not. It absolutely will not work. But I think he's trying to preserve the possibility. I mean, they leaked to the whatever paper that he was against it, except he wanted to go big. I think he's trying to preserve the possibility that he can say, I was against this thing.
He might be trying to do that. I don't know. I ain't going to work. And I also caught that we pray for the troops. We pray for the success. It's just like, well, sure. But what about, like, do we think that there's going to be success?
Well, that's the thing. It's like,
success? What is success? There's a lot unsaid.
I mean, there was the other day where he was asked, what kind of advice did you give the president in these Oval Office discussions about the war? And he was like, well, I'm not going to get into detailing the advice I gave Trump because I want the advice to remain confidential. That's fine. But he could have at any point in that answer been like, I support the action, but I'm not going to tell you. He's clearly trying to not get tied to this thing. I don't know. I find that really fascinating.
Yeah. Here's the thing though. Does it seem like let's just do a little kind of armchair alpha male analysis of body language there.
That's what I'm perfect.
Does JD seem like he's given Donald Trump a lot of real talk behind the scenes to you? Just reading that? Does it seem like he's somebody that is actually in private, offering him critiques and criticism that he just doesn't want to share publicly? Because that's what he's trying to say, is that, like, behind the scenes in the Situation Room, I'm giving real talk, but I don't want to, in public, I don't want to offer that. And I don't think that that's true. I don't. It just doesn't appear to me very likely that that's true. If
I had to guess, he's probably not playing a very forceful role behind the scenes, right? He's probably just sort of not a wallflower or anything like that, but I'm guessing he's playing his cards close to the chest and supportive of the president. Maybe he did express reservations, but said, if we're going to do it, go big. But he's clearly trying to not get pinned down in any specific direction. He's not boosting this thing. Certainly not like Hegseth, for instance, is like all in. He couldn't be more all in than Pete Hegseth, right? Even Scott Bessent's out there this morning riffing in weird CNBC interviews about how great it's going. And it's the greatest thing. And like, there are other cabinet members who are out there,
Yeah. Comparing this to like World War II, that's what Bessent was like. They're Hitler. Hitler's in the bunker. We've got him on the run. Like, that's
he said
Vance
that.
Wasn't doing that.
JD Vance is like, we're praying for the troops, and don't try to make a division in the cabinet. That's like the lowest thing, the lowest bar to clear is what he's clearing. He's not saying I'm supporting this.
I want to ask you one more thing about this. Sure. Putting on you were an editor once.
I am an editor.
You were an editor at a mainstream media news outlet. You'd remain an editor. Thank you. You're an editor in the corporate media who have different standards. They have different standards. And that's, sometimes people shoot from the hip about like what happens behind the scenes. You've been behind the scenes there. And I want to ask you about this related to Vance. Politico reported last week. Vance is, quote, skeptical, is, quote, worried about success, and, quote, just opposes the war on Iran. A senior Trump official said via text message. So it's the full sentence that's in Politico.
Read that again.
Vance is skeptical, is worried about success, and just opposes the war in Iran. A senior Trump official said via text message. The official was granted anonymity to speak about the vice president's views. Okay. Is there any chance that texter was the vice president? Like, how would that work?
No.
Attribution-wise?
No. I don't think that would not fly.
That would not fly attribution-wise.
You can't hide your attribution like that. At least not when I was there. Let's put it this way. A single anonymous source via text for that has to be serious.
It's a full story. It's Diana Taurasi and Eli Stokols.
And I trust them. I mean, the great reporters, it's got to be serious. And I'm not going to speculate on their sources.
There's a second source. You tell us. I just want to read you. The second senior Trump official said that his role is to provide the president and the administration, all points of view of what could happen from many different angles. And, he does that. But once the decision has been made, he's fully on board. So that second senior official to me seems like a spokesperson, a representative of Vance, right? Like they're spinning. So like the first person remains a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, no, if I had to guess, it's like considering the quality of the reporters too, it's sourced. Now, is it self-serving sourced? Yeah, probably. But like, here's a little bit of a little bit more behind the curtain stuff. Like this happens, people should understand this happens a lot. Like, different camps want to get at their worldview and they try to work reporters to do it. And I was an editor on a piece during the Biden administration around the VP's office where similar skepticism around what was happening in Gaza was part of the piece. Okay. And editors have to take into consideration the motivations of their sources. And we spent a lot of time belaboring that piece about Kamala Harris in Gaza. A lot of time. Because we were wondering about the motivations of sources. So that's all I'll say about that.
And so your point was you spent a lot of time because you're trying to figure out, is it true that the vice president had real issues, or are they just saying that now to try to save face? That was what you were kind of trying to
do they want to use us to make it clear to the public that, in fact, behind the scenes, so-and-so is actually quite skeptical. And you do that on every story, and you have to judge the motivations of the sources, the quality of the sourcing. It's a parlor game. And it's a difficult one for the editors and the reporters. And I'm based on the quality of the reporters on this. I'm assuming they went through the entire trappings and kicked the tires and all that stuff.
Right. We'll keep monitoring. Interesting stuff from the vice president's office today.
For sure.
Thank you guys. We'll see you soon.
Later.
Hey everybody, Tim over the Bulwark here with our managing editor, Sam Stein. It's Sunday afternoon. We did this a couple weeks ago. Just a little weekend potpourri where, I'm looking at the internet and, there are a few things out there that don't merit a full video, but that are either fun or sad or annoying. And we can just chop it up real quick. Does that sound good?
It sounds great to me. It's like, my family, we would go out to Sunday night Chinese food and we get all the appetizers. It's like that, basically.
Yeah. Food, some dumplings, some spring rolls.
Some spring rolls. Oh,
yeah. Jinx. Okay, here we go. We're going to start with yesterday. It was a pretty boring sports weekend, I will say. But yesterday we had the Army. It was a good Spurs Thunder game. We had an Army Navy game yesterday. They invited the president to the event. And an interesting thing that happened was they asked her to do the coin flip. And we should just watch it together.
Mr. President, would you do the honor? It is tails. Army, you've won the toss.
It's like a little bird.
It's right there in the name. It's flip. It's a coin flip. You're supposed to flip the coin.
He let it fall. He let the coin fall.
It dropped.
Yeah. I mean, at least it tumbled.
It turned over one time.
No, it had to have turned over one time. I mean, it couldn't have just landed like that. It was not. There wasn't much rotation. Let's put it that way. I don't know. Do you think he had someone he wanted to get the heads or tails? I don't know. Why was he so gentle? I just don't think
he knows how to do it.
No. Why are you just really gentle with that coin? All right. How would you do? I would have done the little bing like that, right?
Pop.
You gotta go bing. Yeah, pop.
Yeah. Not that
That's
hard.
not something you practice, I suppose. Maybe he got a little the yips, where you're just sort of anxious about the flip. You want the flip to look nice, and then you're suddenly and then it just falls.
A normal person that doesn't live in his own hotel would know how to flip a coin. That's all I'm saying.
Wait, you kind of just glossed over Spurs Thunder. That was a great game.
Amazing game. And absolutely needed for the NBA because the Thunder was running roughshod over everybody.
I was worried. I'm so worried about this season. It's just looking like preordained. But my boy, Steph Castle, had a great game last night.
Yeah, UConn grad. Yeah, Wemby and Jokic are going to have something to say about it. Okay, I had one more thing on the Army-Navy game. I've noticed a couple times, but I don't think we've mentioned it. And I'm going to do a big interview later this week on Palantir and what's happening over there. Folks don't know what Palantir is. It's like a government contractor. Peter Thiel started it. They do spyware. Let's just pull this up here. This massive Palantir ad at the Army-Navy game. I find this very gross. Like this is the military academies, and we're having like a spyware company, defense contractor spyware company that has like a very upfront political perspective among their leadership. They're doing ads at the game. I don't know.
I mean, they obviously knew Trump was there, right? So they're trying to get it on his radar. But yeah, it was like there's a little bit sort of like we're all going to be basically soldiers for Palantir down the road. Yeah,
it felt like it was out of a creepy dystopian movie. Yeah, you know, it's like I you know me, Sam. I'm gonna be probably more pro-capitalist than the median commenter on this YouTube feed. I do love capitalism, but like it feels like that we should have some safe spaces from capitalism in the country, like a military academy football game. I don't know.
It's either that or it's sports betting. It's like one or the other is going to advertise right there. So it's like pick your poison, right?
I would feel a little bit better about DraftKings than Palantir.
No, I agree. I totally agree. But the DraftKings, it's everywhere. Like you cannot escape the sports betting advertising at these events too. That makes me uncomfortable a little bit as well.
Okay, here's one more little politics sports take us over
the
weekend.
We are like absolutely rifling through these topics.
We're rolling through. It's a potpourri. Okay, you don't have a full meal of dumplings. You take a couple of bites, then you move on. It's a fucking potpourri, Sam.
Are we at the spare ribs portion of this meal?
We're at something a little gayer than spare ribs. There's a little Temu Charlie Kirk. He's trying to sell himself like the new Charlie Kirk. Have you seen this fella? Brylan Hollyhander.
Oh yeah, that guy. Will's written about him. He's so funny.
Yeah. He did a post over the weekend that I just did you see it?
No, you gave me some prep work, but I didn't see that one.
Great. He wrote this. This is a tweet that he posted. Okay. This is one of the worst tweets I've ever seen in my life. Instead of the Super Bowl, I'd rather watch President Trump and Tom Homan mass deporting illegal aliens! !
You're just trying so hard.
How are we losing to these people? What?
This is like
doesn't
the
even make
equivalent
sense.
I know it doesn't make sense. It's the equivalent of like some lib being like, you know what I really want during the Super Bowl halftime show? A Hamilton reenactment. It's like, oh God, no, just watch the fucking game. Brought to you by Palantir, okay?
Like you should feel bad watching the Super Bowl. You should not be at a soup kitchen. No, it's just like, come on. This little fucking white boy. This guy's kind of blazer.
I know. He's sort of notorious, right, for trying way too hard, right? Like that's his thing. He's like going around trying to beat Charlie Kirk, and I think he had a polo shirt with the Masters logo on it when he was on his private plane. He was pictured doing that. At that point, I feel like part of me feels bad because he's like 22, something like that, and it's just
I don't feel bad.
Your youth shouldn't be spent this way.
This tweet is bad across all different metrics. Like
it's a bad tweet.
It is morally reprehensible.
What was what are the responses? I haven't seen the responses.
Not positive. I just did the Taylor Swift doing the loser. That's my response.
The fact that you engage this stuff, I don't know. Amazing.
You did a bad tweet. You did a bad tweet over the weekend, actually. I hadn't seen it, but it was brought up to me IRL. I had an IRL person say to me that what was up with Sam's bad tweet, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
There's so many bad ones. I have no idea.
You said that Illinois should take the high road now on redistricting. Now that Indiana has done the right thing, it's like let me just the Democrats win one little battle, and you're ready to just fold.
Okay, I did see the reaction to this, and I feel like I need to clarify because I think people are misinterpreting the point here. I said one state. I didn't say, Maryland should take it off and Virginia should not do it. People have to understand behind the scenes, these conversations are happening. Like Democrats are trying to position states to correspond with other states. Illinois is supposed to correspond with Indiana. Okay. Virginia is supposed to correspond with Florida. Maryland's kind of out there figuring out what it's corresponding with. And if Indiana, which is 2 seats that could go Republican, says we're not going to do it, then Illinois should say, which is 1 seat, should say, potentially, we won't do it either. It's a net gain of 1 for Democrats. Now, let's say the reverse. Illinois does go forward now, And a bunch of the Indiana Senate Republicans are like, wait a second, what the fuck? Like, actually, we change our mind. Now you're in a worse spot. So I stand by the tweet. The haters, I told Bill this morning. It's always good to be flooded with hate online every once in a while. It keeps you, yeah, that's fine. It keeps you sane. It keeps you grounded. I'm happy to take it. Okay.
Which side am I supposed to do? One's for the loser? This side?
Oh, you got it.
Loser.
Whatever.
You're a loser.
It was
That's
brought
a
up
loser.
to you in real life? Wow.
So, yeah, it's a loser mentality that you have. And
strategic mentality.
Don't like it. Disagree. So, for all of you who disagree with Sam, know that you have an ally.
Pile it
in
on.
me.
Bring it.
Yeah,
Bring it. I
because
don't care.
fucking JB Pritzker, man up. Okay, don't let Sam Stein give you the air cover to whip out here. Squeezing out one more seat.
If we're going with the Chinese food metaphor here, this was the worst dish. Let's
okay,
move on
the Republicans need pain. This one might be worse, actually, because I expect you to have a bad take on this, too. A lot of discussion on Twitter. Unclear yet in the real world about the Erica Kirk town hall with Barry Weiss on CBS. My For You page on X is just entirely Erica Kirk and people deranged takes on all sides. Like, just people have very strong views. We'll see what the ratings were for it being an actual TV. I should start just by saying I don't like have that as strong views as some people in the media commentary space on what happens with CBS, because I've not watched CBS News outside of 60 Minutes in like probably 12 years. So 60 Minutes does matter, but like it's not like I've watched the CBS Evening News. When was the last time I watched CBS Evening News? They made the announcement of who the new anchor is. It's Katie Tur's husband, so congrats. I don't know him, but I know Katie.
Big Tony guy. Yeah.
Who did he replace? I'm not really sure. I'm not 100% sure. So it's not that big of a deal. That said, so maybe it's one of those things where nobody was watching before, nobody's watching now. But a lot of chatter about it. I had one thing in particular that caught my eye, but was there anything about the Barry Weiss Erica Kirk discourse you want to weigh in on?
Well, two things. One is on the Erica Kirk discourse. I'm public with this too. Whatever, people can throw hate at me all they want. I find the attacks on her and what she's doing totally uncomfortable. Like, people grieve in different ways. People want to do different things. She wants to, continue the legacy of her husband. She needs to be out there. That's helping her process it. Fine. Who cares? Grow up. Let her do her thing. I don't care.
I will say, if she's going to do that, you can criticize her takes, because she had some pretty bad ones. Yeah, sure.
Totally fine.
But
the idea that she's
like, why aren't you parenting your child, woman, and stuff like that? I'm like, everybody calm down.
You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. Just shut up. So that's one. Two, on the Barry Weiss thing, look, she's obviously a dynamic figure. I would just say, look, she's now overseeing this entire news agency. I was a little bit surprised she took the interview. Like, if I were her, I would have, I would have given it to someone else. I would have said, anyone. I would have been like, I am now the manager. I need to show that I need to get buy-in from the people. I'm not going to Bigfoot or take this interview. That's the only take I have on this. Yeah. There might be some reason why she took the interview. Maybe it was only granted to her. But yeah, that seemed like a weird choice to me.
The thing that I found weird about it was, I guess I'm just going to be candid. It was Saturday night. I was at Tipitinas. I live in New Orleans. It was at 8:00 on Saturday night. I wasn't watching this town hall. The only people watching it were 80. All right. So network TV on Saturday night at 8 p.m., I think, is when it was aired. I'm not 100% sure, because I was at Tipitinas enjoying Dragon's Milk. It was a good show. So I've seen a couple of the clips, though. And I saw the Sunday morning clip of Barry talking about the interview. So this is a meta take here. It's me commenting on Barry, commenting on her interview. Gotcha. Let's watch Barry.
I think the thing that was baffling for many of us that watched that, I remember watching it and thinking, I can't understand this. What does this mean? She was able to explain the distinction between forgiveness as a personal choice to almost let go of something, to not let it be this anvil around her, and forgiveness in the mode of her faith, and to make a distinction between that and her desire for justice, which is quite different. It doesn't mean that she forgives it doesn't mean that she does not want this alleged murderer
to be held accountable.
Yeah. And I think that's the really, really important distinction.
Here's the thing that I it's like, take the interview. I'm fine. I don't really care who is doing the interviews for CBS. But you do the interview, and then afterwards, rather than like being an analyst who like is saying like she has some good points, she had some bad points,
right?
It's like it's doing this thing where like you're puffing yourself up, like you're a Don King promoter for your own work, and you're just like so amazing. I had to bear witness. I got to bear witness to this historic moment, an historic moment where Erica Kirk taught the world how to handle something I don't think people could understand, which is that you can forgive somebody and also want the justice system to work. And I'm like, that's the most anodyne take in the world. Like that's one of the first three things you learn about when you learn about Jesus. Like, it's like the good, it's like, oh, she did the golden rule. It's like, it's great. It's praiseworthy that she did it. But like this notion that like what we saw was something that nobody could possibly behold, and that Barry Weiss was like navigating the Amazon and found this remote culture of Christians. And here's what the Christians do out there in the woods. They forgive people. It's like, okay. That caught me a little. I want a little bit more balanced analysis of the interview, I guess.
And it suggests that like the stuff you got from the interview wasn't. I mean, it's a good interview. It's important, I suppose, but it's not like a high profile. I don't think it's like you're not. People aren't going to remember this.
What's happening with the For You page? What's happening with the algorithm?
Oh, it's awful.
Why does the algorithm want us to
it's
know?
Awful.
To see every terrible opinion about Erica Kirk? Do you think?
I don't know. This morning, it was every. I mean, I woke up. It was all the Bondi shooting, but it was like the most grotesque, horrifying stuff from that shooting. I mean, corpses all over the place. 10-minute long segments of people like sniping at each other. It felt like we were in some sort of, movie, like some horror show movie or some like video game reenactment. And I was just like, if you're just an average kid hopping on this platform like that, it is Wild West shit, and it is rewarding bad actors. And it's people need to go to the following page, get off the For You page. It's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. I should say you already talked to Bill this morning about both the Brown shooting and the Bondi shooting. And I think that's just another. It was one of the reasons I was like so annoyed by getting this town hall like pushed it by Facebook so much. It's just like we're in this. That is some news judgment. But
there are no new. That's the problem. There's no new. There's no one judging the news on this platform, which is the biggest purveyor of the news. It's just hey, whatever people are like spending their most time on, and of course they're going to watch horrific, gunfights and dead bodies all over the place. I mean, we're primal people, and it's like I don't know. It felt very raw and kind of irresponsible, frankly.
You sent also the story about the girl at Brown that had been shot in a school shooting already, and she was then at Brown and was going to be at the area where the Brown.
That's unbelievable.
Anyway, this is why if you go on my Jubilee video, people are like, why did you argue about guns? Why did you choose guns? It's one of the topics to argue with the kids about. The reason is because I'm like, I just think it's crazy that we've now just it's kind of like, okay, well, now that we didn't solve this after Sandy Hook, what's the point of talking about it anymore? I kind of feel like maybe we should talk about it a little bit. If there's a kid that is in college that's been in 2 school shootings now, and she's not the first one, but just
this is not the first. And I've had all these people in my replies being like, well, these are 2 gun-free zones. Like, of course there's going to be shootings there. It's like, come on, man. What do you just, do like basic research, just any fundamental basic research about gun violence and educate yourself before doing this.
I want to take you over to the New York Young Republican Gala.
Yay.
Last night I followed these guys around for a while. This is like a MAGA youth group.
MAGA unlike cocaine youth group. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they're like the MAGA. I ended up not happening, but I spent a decent amount of time with them because I was pitching kind of a broader project before I got kind of busy making 100 videos a day for the YouTube about this group, because they're really important. Because like people do forget this, but there was a moment in time between the January 6th insurrection and Trump announcing he's going to run again, where like most of the right-wing institutions were kind of like, we just want to move on to DeSantis.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Fox was for it. Rupert was for it. Most of the young college Republican groups were more DeSantis-like, The New York Young Republicans were the first group to be like, we are endorsing Trump again after the insurrection. And they kind of made a name for themselves this way. And so anyway, to your point that they're like MAGA on cocaine, that's their deal. They had their gala last night.
The first to endorse President Donald J. Trump in 2024. And Mr. President, the New York Young Republican Club is prepared to endorse in 2028.
There you go. So obviously there's some trolling elements to this, but like that's the type of folks that you're getting out there.
Yeah, I mean, this is just them trying to like be, the most Trumpy, most, provocative people in the room. And of course, there's a little New Yorker mentality, obviously. Like, they don't give a shit. They want to, like, fight. But it's a cult. Like, it's very cultish, right?
It's a cult. I will say there was one sign from outside that these internal MAGA tensions are existing, though. Like, even in this place where it's like you're self-volunteering to be the most MAGA. Yeah. Outside the event, there was a guy protesting. He appeared to be a left-wing guy wearing a Nazi costume, protesting New York Young Republicans, accusing them of Nazis. Just as like a pro tip, like as a protester, like you don't, even if you're making fun of Nazis, you're really dressing like a Nazi. It can send some mixed messages. So just a little pro tip for protesters out there. I wouldn't wear the Nazi garb myself. So
it's when you're taking the trolling a touch too far when you look in the mirror and you got a swastika on.
Exactly. So you got the guy in the Nazi suit, then hands one of his swastikas to a New York Young Republican attendee, gala attendee, who's a groyper, so Nick Fuentes type, who takes the swastika and is like, "You're right, I am a Nazi." Okay, basically. And so then he holds it.
Thank you.
And then starts yelling at the guy. Yeah. And then another New York Young Republican, kind of a portly fella, comes out, and I guess he is an anti-groyper, so he's a MAGA anti-groyper. So there you go. And let's see what he does to the groyper guy.
You invited him to your fucking club. You gave him a ticket to your fucking club. Whoa. Okay, let's get the fuck out of here.
There you go. There you go.
An open hand slap. An open hand slap. I gotta tell you, I chuckled in bed this morning watching.
No, you love to see that shit. I mean, these people are so, it's like tough to know who to root for sometimes, but in this one, I'm rooting for the slapper.
The slapper.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're not, violence is sometimes the answer for you then, Sam, is what you're saying. No guns, yes slapping.
Yeah, I can get down with slapping, sure.
Open hand slapping. All right, my final topic for you. Like you said, we've been banging through. This is the dessert. This is your fortune cookie. And this was from TMZ. Tekashi 6ix9ine caught a stray shot for being a snitching Mexican in a lace front wig during 21 Savage's 3-hour interview, and now he's clapping back.
I have no idea what any of that means. Like, that just completely went over my head. What?
That was a TMZ headline. Tekashi 6ix9ine caught a stray shot for being a snitching Mexican in a lace front wig during 21 Savage's 3-hour interview, and now he's clapping back. So a lot of numbers.
A lot of numbers in that headline. I would not have gone with that headline if it were us, but the fact that it caught your attention, maybe we should put like a bunch of weird numbers and names in our headlines.
I wonder what he's saying now that he's clapping back. I did click, but then it was too confusing to read.
It's like, what? Who are these people?
All right. Anything else catch your eye? Any other potpourri?
Nah, man, I gotta go watch some football.
Yeah, your kids sounds like your dadding down there. It sounds like you're doing a great job.
There's chaos back there. I said, Harry, I gotta go do some YouTube. Get out of here.
This is where you get all the gold, the real gold, right here. We'll see you soon.
Hey everybody, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor of the Bulwark. I'm joined by Tim Miller and Sonny Bunch to discuss a story that popped this morning from the New York Times, Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, adapted from their book, Regime Change, that looks at the frantic, sophomoric, ridiculous efforts that the Trump administration at the highest possible levels went to try to cover up, I think that's a fair description, the Epstein files. There's many revelations in this long article. But I think the primary one is that it's a bunch of Keystone cops who don't really care about anything other than protecting the reputation of the president. and who are using the Situation Room of all places to sort of go about scheming on how they're going to do it.
It's honestly hard to believe it's real life. And it's like, you can't ever do, like, there will be no Veep ever again. Like, you could not do another spoof about our political system anymore. I mean, it's just, you cannot even imagine a scene like this, sitting in the Situation Room, 400-pound Stephen Chung, the tweeter in chief, telling the vice president that his plans to cover up the Epstein files, and then not telling the vice president, telling the attorney general that his plans to cover up the Epstein files are going to be a PR problem. And it's just like, what?
That is a direct
when you hear
quote.
all the details of the Situation Room meeting, it's like it is dumber than anything you could possibly write in Sonny's movie world. That's just why we have Sonny here.
Exactly. So the quote is from Stephen Chung. This just gives you a taste of it, and then we'll go to the broad picture. They're in the Situation Room. They're talking about different ways to kind of distract from the Epstein files, and they get to the idea of maybe they should just pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, which I don't really understand how that would work, and neither did anyone else in the room. But the idea is pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, and Stephen Chung, who's the head of comms at the White House, responds, according to the article, with this: pardoning Maxwell, a trafficker of young girls, would create a huge PR problem.
You think so?
Which is true, yes, but that's not the only problem.
A broken sumo wrestler is right once a day, you know?
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk big picture here. Sonny, J.D. Vance is the lead of this story, I think for a reason, and I'll get to my suspicions in a little bit, but mostly because in the depiction of this Situation Room scene, and there's multiple scenes in here, he is the one who's like deeply nervous about losing the base. In this case, his base is the internet. And he also comes across as the one who is like, we need to just get everything out. We should just get everything out very quickly and take our lumps and hopefully just move on, because it's going to come out one way or another. Now, I think he was right about that, and they probably should have done that in retrospect. But the first part about his sort of occupation with how the internet is going to perceive the Trump administration over this specific issue, that's the one that you picked up on.
Yeah. No, the running thread throughout this story is JD Vance's sweaty panic, right? Which is like, there's nobody in this administration, or really any other administration, previous, hopefully future administration, that I have more contempt for than JD Vance. He's a man who has no beliefs. He has no core beliefs, right? He started as a never Trumper, realized that was not going to get him elected anywhere. It was like, oh, actually Trump is great. And, you're not to blame for your own problems, people. Hillbilly Elegy, don't ignore that book in the corner. I didn't write that. This is not your fault. So he has no core beliefs, right? This is his defining trait. And so what happens now is he has latched on to this idea of the internet masses, the manosphere types, the Rogan types, as the base of power of MAGA. And what do these people believe in? He has to try to like kind of reverse engineer a set of ideas of what he believes in. And what he has settled on was Epstein files. We got to get these Epstein files out there. We got to clear the air here. And Sam, could you tell everybody your theory here, because I think it's interesting. I want to bounce off that in a second, but I want you to explain it first.
Sure. My theory of the case, and this is all sort of parlor game bullshit, but whatever, we can engage in it, is that Vance is the leaker for a lot of this stuff. Now, there are definitely parts of the article where he doesn't look particularly bright. Like, for instance, this idea that he would arrange Tucker Carlson to interview Ghislaine Maxwell. Don't really know how that would probably go. There's a point in the article where Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, tells others that the vice president has proved himself to be a major conspiracy theorist. I'm not sure Vance wants that out there. But my theory is predicated on this, which is this is the second time that we've got a excerpt from this book. The first time was around the decision to attack Iran. And in each of these excerpts, it's J.D. Vance who comes across as a sort of noble protagonist who's dissenting from the rest of the crew on these very crucial issues. In the Iran one, he was the one who's like very against going in, and was the one who's like, we should be skeptical of the success of this mission. In this one, he's like, we just need to get everything out. We just got to get everything out. We should be transparent as humanly possible. And to me, Tim, you can slap me down if you think I'm wrong, but to me, that's like he's trying to position himself in a way where the bad stuff doesn't get blamed on him, and that suggests a strategic leak.
J.D. Vance is obviously the leaker, and so is Susie Wiles. I mean, both Susie Wiles and JD Vance are very obviously talking to Maggie and Jonathan Swan on this. And, look, I think that JD is looking ahead already to a 2028 primary, right? And like these are both issues, in addition to being both fuck-ups with the administration, they're the two fuck-ups that most created problems on the America First right, Iran and Epstein, right? And so JD, whether or not these self-leaks are true or not, obviously cares about how that faction of the party thinks about him. And it would be a great delicious irony for JD Vance to go down because he can't successfully distance himself from Donald Trump. That would be an appropriate an appropriate final frame to the story. I know we can't have nice things, and maybe this grand epic of our modern Odysseus will not end in the way that we wish, but it would be appropriate for it to end with JD Vance dying by his own sword of just not being able to separate himself from Donald Trump.
This is what really jumps out at me, right? Is that a lot of this piece, not the whole thing, as you mentioned, there are places where he does sound fairly deranged, but the whole piece reads like him doing his next pivot, which is Trump. He's trying to out-Trump Trump. Trump is the problem here. Trump is the one covering up the files. Trump is the one going to war with Iran. I'm the one talking to Rogan and Tucker Carlson, who are the guys you like. I'm the one who is, trying to get all the Epstein information out there. I want the pedophiles gone. That's me, JD Vance, Mr. Anti-Pedophile. Like, I do think he is trying to make the post-Trump pivot here, maybe, which I don't think will work because I don't think he has that sort of rapport with the base. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I don't know if it'll work either. Can I just say one more thing on the leaks? Just because this is another important piece of evidence that it is JD and or Susie. I think Susie in particular, who's also leaking, is we had the other story from the Times about a week ago where Susie told JD to stop tweeting because it wasn't presidential. And Stephen Chung, big boy, posted on social media that this was false. This was fake news. And the New York Times did something very not that typical, which is their communications account replied to Stephen Chung, and then they updated the story, basically saying, we stand by our sources on this. And it's the only way that they would be that adamant that their source is correct is if their source was Susie.
Exactly.
Right? It's just because who else could it be? Right? It's either it's a two-person conversation between Susie and JD.
Right.
So I do think it's pretty clear if you look at this story that both of them are trying to shape things with at times differing and at times overlapping interests.
Yeah, there's some chestnuts like that in this piece too. The Vance having just gotten off the phone with Joe Rogan, there's probably two people who know that, Joe Rogan and JD Vance. So that kind of give away. I want to go through, there are so many really interesting anecdotes in here. I'm going to go through a few of them. One person who does not come across particularly great in this piece is Pam Bondi. Well, Donald Trump. Okay, let's go with Donald Trump first. Donald Trump, first of all, obviously completely connected to these files, and everyone's just basically running around trying to figure out ways to shield him. Not just from the release of the files, but hearing bad news. You notice that Donald Trump's not in any of these meetings. He's just not in these meetings. And it's up to Susie to go and convey what's going on.
And the situation, we made a joke about it for people who have read the article. The people in the lead example of this, there is a situation room meeting about the Epstein cover-up. What can we do to distract from the fact that Donald Trump is in the files? And JD is basically saying we should just let it all out, which I think is so funny. It's I'd love for him to say that to Trump's face. Mr. Trump, what we need to do is just put everything you did in these files out. It's and everybody's looking around great idea, JD. Okay. But in the meeting, it's JD, the attorney general, the deputy attorney general, Cash is on the phone.
It's everybody.
It's fucking everybody. It's the whole administration is in the situation room, batting around
they
ideas.
Got Brooke Rollins.
How do we cover up Trump's involvement with Epstein? And it's they're oh, hey, maybe we should pardon Ghislaine. It's oh, no, maybe we should interview Ghislaine. Maybe Tucker should interview Ghislaine. Maybe we should have a grand jury gambit. It is pretty astonishing how many people are involved in the conversation.
You think they had one of those whiteboards where they're just writing down ideas like a brainstorm?
No bad idea. No bad idea in a brainstorm. I was saying before, like the opening anecdote of this thing, they're in the Situation Room. And what's the image of the Situation Room that we all think of, right? It's Obama. Overseeing the Osama bin Laden raid. And everybody's sitting there very seriously like, oh, what's about to happen? And you just imagine this group of fucking clowns sitting there like, well, what about the nipple emails? I don't know. Maybe we should put those out there. I don't know.
We're gonna get to the nipple emails in a little bit.
I'll tell you.
I haven't read the whole story. I should just say I just finished interviewing Senator Warnock. I only got halfway through, so I'm excited to hear what I've missed.
So, okay, I want to get to a few anecdotes before we get to the nipples. Pam Bondi really comes across particularly ineffectual and pathetic here. It really, like, everything basically just blew up when she handed the binders to the influencers that said Epstein files on them. So this is a big moment in all this because there's a lot of stuff they're trying to contain, but when she does this, shit really hits the fan. I'm just going to read from the piece because they're in the Oval, they're meeting the president, and Bondi's handing them these binders. And the piece goes like this. But as Bondi's staff started distributing the binders, the blood pressure of other officials in the room skyrocketed. They had no idea what was in the handouts. The attorney general was distributing something she was calling, quote, the Epstein files that had not been vetted by anyone in the White House. One official opening the binder began flipping through pages to see if Trump's name was mentioned anywhere. A few pages in, right in the middle of the page, there it was. So that was not a good move by Pam Bondi, and it did appear to set things in motion in a way that completely screwed her over. The other person who is like a real protagonist in this is Dan Bongino, who doesn't seem to have a good grip on his emotions, and they sometimes boil over. No. Yeah, no, it's a shocker. Bongino, like Vance, was sort of the mindset that the internet culture on the right was not going to be satisfied with what looked like a pretty obvious cover-up. At one point, he told White House officials, it's not an online story. You don't understand. He's talking about how they thought they could just manage it. And then there is this around the day that the memo was, they put out a memo, basically, Bongino and Kash Patel saying, we looked into all this stuff, couldn't find any client list, case closed. And this was done against their will, more or less. Here's how the Times describe it. The day the memo was released, Bongino showed up at a daily Justice Department meeting with the FBI staff and the Attorney General. He was in a volcanic mood. As soon as he entered the room, he erupted at Bondi, shouting at her, quote, you fucked this thing up from the start. The way you've been talking about this dumb fucking charade with the Epstein files, they're on my desk nonsense, all the promises, the folks out there. Patel and Bongino both subsequently told White House officials that Bondi needed to resign. There's another anecdote where he stormed out of the room and all that stuff. But yeah, this is the people who were in charge of the Justice Department.
There's a hilarious nuts and bolts aspect to this too, because the same day these folders come out, the British Prime Minister is in the White House. He's like, it's like they're having this like high level diplomatic meeting, and there's going to be a press conference afterwards, and you've got these idiots from Twitter out there with their folders waving them around like, look, we got it. We got the files.
Their solution was, hey, those files we just gave you, they're embargoed until the Keir Starmer press conference is over. It's like, okay, yeah.
I hate to be the earnest one. It's tough to be earnest in these situations. But another striking thing, just listening to you all talk about this, is just how little any of these people give a fuck about Jeffrey Epstein's victims.
Zero.
Like
0%.
Nothing. Like nothing. Like there's not a single moment in the meetings or the calls where people are like, the justice for the victims is really important here, right? It's like it's all ass covering. It's just like it's like everyone trying to ass cover Trump, Bondi trying to ass cover herself, Bongino trying to ass cover himself with his podcast followers, like Cash like wanting to get a cookie from the White House. like there's no serious effort to go after any of the people that collaborated with Epstein. There's no serious discussion of expanding the investigation. Like it's all PR nonsense. Like the whole, and they fail at the only thing they care about, which is ass covering.
They fail tremendously at that. It extends even to like the efforts to get the docs out. So there's one element where the House passes a subpoena for the docs, and they're sort of meeting again. That's all the principals. And they're trying to figure out like, okay, well, how do we comply with this subpoena? And James Blair, the deputy White House chief of staff, this is what they report. He told the group that they would try to make sure that they were cooperating fully with the House subpoenas, but that the priority was to release information that demonstrated Trump was not involved in Epstein's crimes. So no, they were not trying to fully comply with the subpoenas. The entire modus operandi was make sure Trump doesn't get hurt by this stuff. So you're right. It never was once, okay, this is actually the right thing to do, or this is a detestable man.
And that includes JD, by the way, who tries to position himself, here via the leaks as the person who actually genuinely cares about the Epstein files. But like, the only thing he cares about is that the base wants to see it, right? Like that is his motivation, right? Like he wants to appease the online MAGA right? And that kind of goes back to what Sonny was talking about at the top about like what his motivation is totally here.
On this front, though, this idea, Bongino says it's not an online story. You don't understand, and like I don't even know what that means, because it is obviously an online story. Like this is like. I don't think it's, I mean, it's a bigger than just an online story, but it is.
I think that's what he means. It's like, it's just over. It's not just like an online discussion.
This
like
is not something that you can just
dismiss
as like, this is just Twitter isn't real life. I think that's what he's trying to do.
I think I think he's right about, he obviously is right about that, right? It's absolutely completely tripped up the Trump presidency.
It is striking to me that even he is trying to say it's not an online story when all of these people spend all of their time online. Like they live. This is the world in which they live. It's the reason that Vance cares about it so much is because it is a very online story. And again, it is beyond that. You do hear it come up in actual in Sarah's focus group podcast and it comes up. People are talking about this in the real world, which is, it's
the reason problem. To your point, Skinny, like the reason why they're acting is because it's so acutely online. I guess that's the point you're trying to make. It's not as if other people don't care about it. It's like they're all being responsive to like these loud online voices that purport to care about this, or at least care about audience management.
Yeah. Before I get to the nipple stuff,
I'm so excited. I'm titillated.
Is there a way they could have handled this? Well, there's a million ways they could have handled it differently. I don't know. Is there a way they could have handled it effectively? Because I read this story and I leave being like, ultimately, J.D. Vance was probably right. They should have just gotten everything out quickly.
Yeah. I don't think there's any way to do a release of everything that wouldn't have caused massive problems for Trump. I mean, part of it is
he had massive problems anyway.
Trump doesn't want everything out about Trump. Melania doesn't want everything about Trump, right? To me, this goes back to the earnest point and like the first principles. Like, what could they have done in theory if they were competent that might have been useful? And to me, like the answer to that question is like, okay, do a serious investigation, right? Like if Cash and whatever DOJ had come forth and said, hey, like because that was this was 6 months in, so they had a little time, like they spent 4 months. We went through all the files, we investigated, we have found out that there are these 3 other people of interest, whoever the fuck they are, Leon Black, Lex Wexler, the Prince, Andrew, like people that are already kind of out there, and like we're doing real investigations into them, and there's a grand jury indictment. I think that buys them time on releasing all the files. Maybe not. Like that's my only possible theory is like if they were like, we're actually taking this seriously and doing investigations, maybe that lessens the pressure a little bit to like release everything, including the Trump stuff. But they're not able to do that because they're fucking clowns.
Yeah, we're building cases. We can't dump it all out there. We're building cases. We can't let all the information out there. If they had, that might have worked, but I don't know that it would have. I don't know that it would have satisfied again the very online base who would have just who want it all out there.
There's no way to satisfy, and there's no way to get through this without taking on sudden damage. I guess my theory of the case is that, and usually in these situations, and this is true of past White Houses, is that when people start investigating stuff or calling for document reliefs, you generally end up releasing the documents. It's just a matter of how you do it. And in this case, they just did it in the most haphazard, damaging way possible. All right. So, and I want to just preface this by saying, some context here. So I had not heard this story. It's an accusation within the some of the files around Epstein, and Sonny had not heard this story too either.
I had not.
This is not a confirmed story, which is part, and that's made clear in the New York Times piece that the White House officials are grappling with whether to put this out in the files because the accusation made against Trump within it is not confirmed. In fact, the accuser has some credibility problems, but this sort of gets to how they were thinking about handling the release of the Jeffrey Epstein's files, because you put this out, you get this out into the ether, and then suddenly people will believe it's true, and it's not necessarily true. On the other hand, if you don't put it out, it looks like you're covering things up, and so on and so forth. So anyways, I'm just going to read this. It involves an Epstein victim named Sarah Ransom, who later sued Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And in the emails, this I'm going to read from the Times. Ransom claimed that she knew a girl in Epstein's sex trafficking ring named Jen, who said she had sex with Trump. Ransom also claimed that Jen had told her that Trump had a predilection for nipples and that he had aggressively flicked and sucked hers. Ransom wrote that she had seen evidence when she shared a bathroom with Jen. Quote, they looked incredibly painful as they were red and swollen, and I remember wincing when I looked at them, she wrote. One official would later describe it as a surreal experience to be discussing nipples in the White House Situation Room. I bet.
And what was the age of the women? Can I get a little more context on the women? Where were we here? Was this in the...
I don't think they have an actual age for Jen.
Is this in a Mar-a-Lago dressing room or...
We don't know. All we know is that the old Gouffre case file included emails sent to a journalist by another Epstein victim, Sarah Ransom, who later sued Epstein and Maxwell. Epstein had also settled that case. Then I read you what Ransom says. They note that Ransom's credibility was not uncomplicated. They could have just said complicated. She had made another claim that she possessed video footage of prominent women having sex with young girls in Epstein's entourage. She later retracted the claims, saying she feared for herself and her family.
So this was during the Gouffre kind of era.
Yeah.
So that tracks timing-wise of when Trump was in Epstein's orbit.
I will just say J.D. Vance thought Trump should release all docs, including the nipple doc. He said Trump would be okay with it.
The image of them discussing this in the Situation Room. And again, J.D. Vance, to Tim's point, J.D. Vance being like, we need to get this out there. We need to get this information out there, which strikes me as the only reason you want this out there is if you are trying to separate yourself from Donald Trump.
Let me just say, this is obviously serious shit. We all we know it's
really
serious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Donald Trump doing nipple molestation, violent nipple molestation is bad.
Yeah. So, okay, here we go. The vice president said he thought the president would be okay with releasing the nipple-related documents, arguing that Trump had been accused of worse. Quote, I think we should put it out, he said. It would cause people to say we're going further than we need. Wiles quickly responded that the president would not, in fact, be okay with it. It was a point no one wanted to continue debating. Okay.
Just imagine going to the president with that. Just imagine going to Donald Trump and explaining to him the things that you were going to be putting out there. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. A young woman previously had said that you were into nipple-related S&M, that her areolas were hurt. To me, this could be also thinking about the J.D. Vance endgame.
Yeah.
Another appropriate end for him that I would relish would be Donald Trump endorsing whoever, Marco or his kid or whatever, in 2 years, and having it come out in the next Maggie and Swan book in 2029 that Trump decided that he could not endorse JD after he learned that JD wanted to release the nipple emails. Trump was like, I can no longer trust this person.
It just shows bad judgment.
Yeah, it just shows like, how could you want to put out, like, what could he do when he's in there in 2029 if he wanted people to see what I had done to those nipples? Like, who knows? Maybe he'll send his Department of Justice after me to show that, they're going above and beyond. So I don't know. I think that the nipple thing could really haunt JD.
Good point. I think we should end on that point too. I'm done. I've exhausted myself, and we really hit a high note here. All right, Tim Miller, Sonny Bunch, thanks for unpacking this story in the New York Times. I'll talk to you soon. Fellas, take care. All right, hey everybody, it's me, Sam Stein, back again with Will Summer. It's not a MAGA Monday, it's Tuesday. We are coming to you mere hours before what could be, I don't know what you want to call it, the wiping of the civilization of Iran off the map day. We say this because early this morning, Donald Trump bleated, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have the complete and total regime change, where different and smarter, less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? Question mark, question mark. So this is scary shit, obviously, and it's very rare for a president to talk like this. Never happens that they talk like this openly. But there's a lot of uproar in the sort of Trump angry MAGA right, or previously MAGA right. And we're going to play a bit of this. The first actually comes from before this was posted. It's from Tucker Carlson. And Will, why don't you set it up? Because Tucker's got his show. Obviously, Tucker's having some issues with Trump. Tucker's not for the war. But I didn't expect him to go this far.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Tucker's been kind of walking his way up to finally criticizing Trump for even after the bomb started falling. He started saying, well, maybe Israel tricked Trump. And then when Trump said, maybe we'll leave the Strait of Hormuz, that's not our problem. Tucker loved that. So he's been kind of saying that, Trump's being misled for the most part. But then on a Monday night, he came out with this video where essentially he starts arguing that Trump is the Antichrist. He starts saying, Trump is trying to make himself bigger than God. He's this anti-Christian figure. He didn't dare put his hand on the Bible to be sworn in. A lot of crazy stuff, or maybe not so crazy. I don't know. These days,
it didn't sound okay. The Antichrist stuff was a little crazy, but the stuff that I saw was not that crazy. Right? Like talk about the part where he attacked Trump for going after Islam.
Yeah, sure. So in Trump's post on Sunday where he said, praise be to Allah, and he's, open the fucking strait, or you maniacs. Tucker, number one, he felt that this was very offensive to do on Easter for Christians, but also he said, attacking Islam is like, attacking the idea of belief in general. And so it's also an attack on Christianity. So, Tucker's clearly trying to pull in, I think particularly, Catholics. He's trying to pull them in and sort of make them anti-Trump.
Let's play the clip. I have some thoughts on the other side.
Who do you think you are? You're tweeting out the F word on Easter morning? You'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. So obviously you're mocking the religion of Iran. Okay. If you seek a religious war, that's a good idea. But by the way, no decent person mocks other people's religions. You may have a problem with the theology. Presumably you do if it's not your religion, and you can explain what that is. But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself, and we should never mock that.
I found this remarkable, Will. I just feel like, look, I don't want to praise Tucker because Tucker's crazy and he says conspiratorial things all the time, and he doesn't necessarily deserve to be treated necessarily as the most honest broker here. But at the same time, I found his argument compelling. That if you're going to face an entire religion, if you're going to mock it, but also if you're going to talk about it in these theological terms, that you are not acting as a normal constitutional American president, that this is not what the country is founded on, that you have to respect the ability and the right of someone to practice their own religion, not mock it or wage war in it. And this is not just Trump, obviously. Pete Hegseth at yesterday's briefing was talking about the rescue operation for the soldier as some sort of providential matter in which this person was saved on Easter Sunday and God is great and all these things. And they're talking in these incredibly theological terms. And I thought Tucker's anger at it, I felt like it was legit anger, was valid in that moment. Maybe I'm a sucker for his compelling oratory, but it did seem honestly like he was angry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I at one point he says, this country isn't a theocracy, and by kind of pulling in all this Christian language, you're tarnishing it by associating it with this war. I do think he seems to, I mean, obviously Tucker has these, nebulous ties to countries in the Middle East like Qatar. But I do think
this is a problem. Yes.
Yes. But, and supposedly, we also have to factor in that he claims the CIA was investigating him for foreign ties. So, I mean, there's a lot going on here, but I agree with you. I think the argument he was making here was compelling. And I think, frankly, this, as you said, this was before the destroy civilization tweet. And I feel like more and more people are going to start to agree with him on the right, after that tweet.
Definitely. You're seeing it already. Before we get to that, though, I want to play the second Tucker clip, where he's just basically saying, this is a make or break moment, line in the sand time. Like, if you feel like things are off the rails, you got to speak up now. So let's play that clip.
If you work in the White House or in the U.S. military, now it's time to say no, absolutely not, and say it directly to the president, no. In case you're thinking about using some weapon of mass destruction against the population of Iran, in whose name we liberated Iran, we killed their religious leader for their benefit. Do you remember that? This was last month. Those people who are in direct contact with the president need to say, no, I'll resign. I'll do whatever I can do legally to stop this because this is insane. And if given the order, I'm not carrying it out. Figure out the codes on the football yourself.
Here he is. He's saying to, if you work in the White House or the military, now's the time to say absolutely not. Time for resignations, time to raise your voice. I was talking about this, I think, internally the other day, because this is something we talk about a lot here at the Bulwark. And it's hard, right? Like, I mean, Joe Kent did it, but Joe Kent is a bit of a wild child, and Joe Kent was then subsequently maligned, and then I think there's an investigation into him. I mean, surely these things weigh over people who want to speak out, right? Like, they went and they targeted 6 senators, Democrats, for the crime of saying you don't have to obey unlawful orders. So, like, this is what happens when you have a presidency committed to retribution on all fronts, one that controls the Department of Justice, the FBI, and honestly, where they have a lot of allies and keep spots in the media. That said, there are people speaking out. And so you referenced this first. Let's talk about Alex Jones. Why? It's like we are like finding the most insane people to say, well, they got a point here. But here's Alex Jones this morning after that Trump leak.
A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. That is the definition of genocide. Not a war, not a defensive war, but a literal bombardment, like Martians, attack us and we don't have a defense. And I want to be clear, I am proud I backed Trump the last 10 years. So much good happened. Globalism was absolutely discredited and dismantled. It's part of a larger wave worldwide. But this new Trump really started when Elon Musk got run out of there. In the last 8 months is a disaster.
Well, he says a whole civilization might die. He says he might die. Why is he filming?
I was going to say
like
that man driving 70 miles an hour on the highway and filming himself is making a lot of sense. There's a fake Mike Lindell clip where it looks like he's like busy filming himself and going like 100 miles an hour, but that's real.
I would just not recommend that you shoot a video driving on the highway like that. You can pull over if you really need to do the video, or you can just wait. Don't need to post right away. You can wait. We'll get your thoughts later. But what do you make of Alex Jones?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the backstory here is that Alex Jones, you can see he's kind of trying to, walk this line or explain why he previously liked Trump. In the past, he's been very closely tied to Trump, even after, these previous strikes on Iran, things like that, things that, the guy who hates, foreign quagmires, black helicopters, this kind of stuff, you would think Alex Jones wouldn't like. And he's taken a lot of flack from that for people on the right, kind of conspiracy-minded people. But you can see here that he's making a break with Trump. And I think, at his heart, and this sounds Alex Jones pursues a sort of humanism, right? He is a guy who is like, they're making the frogs gay. They're putting chemicals in the water. They want to turn us into robots. I mean, these are things that he returns to. And so I think when you start saying, we're going to blow up a civilization, I think that is something that for all his flaws, I think kind of strikes at the center of the Alex Jones ethos.
That's humanism?
Well, saying you shouldn't blow up a civilization, I would say.
I thought you were talking about making the frogs gay.
The putting the chemicals in the water, this kind of stuff that yes.
I was worried about the frogs. Sorry, I didn't realize
it's frogism.
Side effects. It's frogism. Classic frogism here right there. He's not alone. We have Candace Owens, of course, saying 25th Amendment needs to be invoked. She calls Trump a genocidal lunatic. Marjorie Taylor Greene also saying 25th Amendment, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. She called it evil and madness. Look, we talked about this yesterday. So on the one hand, Candace has undoubtedly incredibly big audience. Tucker has a massive audience. Their numbers are rising. On the other hand, we're sort of grappling with whether these things matter because you see in the polls that MAGA voters still like the guy and, Marjorie Taylor Greene left Congress, right? So I just have trouble weighing what the significance of this is. It's fucking notable, obviously. I'm trying to think of a parallel on the left. What would be the parallel? It'd be like if, during the Obama years, Jon Stewart was just saying, this guy's, out of his mind trying to pass Obamacare, get him out of office. But I don't know. That's not even remotely close.
Yeah, I mean, it's someone like Obama or Rachel Maddow or something. But again, I mean, a lot of these figures, particularly someone like on the right, I think what's unique is that these right wing media figures really have so much more power than their left wing or liberal equivalents. I mean, a lot of these people are on let's say MSNBC or whatever. I mean, they could be rich and they have shows with an audience. But someone like Tucker is almost like an operative unto himself, and he goes to the White House and he does all this stuff. So I think it is a challenge figuring out how important this is for Trump's popularity. On the other hand, I think we can look at sort of anecdotal things. Like, for example, there was just an article about the MAGA merch store that closed because after the war, everyone stopped coming in. I mean, I think the polls can show a kind of blind faith in Trump, or sort of as we see with Megyn Kelly, she'll say, I just hate those Democrats so much. I no matter what Trump does, he could drop a nuclear bomb and I would still support him. But on the other hand, I think a lot of that support I don't think there's a lot of real zest for the war. And I think were something, to happen. I mean, I think Trump was very lucky that the pilots or the airmen were rescued. I think if we start getting more casualties or casualties in Iran based on this sort of civilization ending plan, I think we could start seeing that reflected in the polls.
Yeah, let's play Megyn Kelly because I think this is the nut of it. People are just gonna go back to this type of thinking. But let's play what she said.
Trump could drop a nuke and I'd still vote Republican over those people because they want to.
Avenue voter.
In some ways, I really am. But honestly, what they want to do is nuke our own country. It's like the open border, what they're doing to children, all that stuff is still they would do it all if put back in power. And I think most Republicans know that.
What the fuck? It's not even remotely on the same ledger. Nuke a civilization or be kind to transgender athletes. Gotta choose,
It's striking to me that a decade ago, she was this profiling courage for turning on Trump over a rude debate performance.
She was on NBC talking about how, being sympathetic to transgendered kids.
And now she says, oh, who cares about a little nuke?
But that's the thing. It's if you can't get over, if nuking some population overseas is not a line too far, then I just don't know what is. At what point do you just have to say you're kind of cultist about it, right? That is kind of cultist. Jesus, it is so dark.
If I would just add another reaction we're seeing, I think from people like Eric Erickson, the talk radio host, people that are kind of more mainline conservatives reacting to this, the idea of ending the Iranian civilization, is people are saying, this is madman theory. He's just bluffing. This is when he threatened Kim Jong-un with fire and fury. And we'll have to see. But I think Trump is in this, people are recognizing, he's kind of in this bind and he doesn't want to lose. He doesn't want to lose face. And so it just seems like it's going to keep escalating.
Yeah, and it's whatever. I mean, obviously, I'd be incredibly thrilled if he backed off and there was some deal. I think the entire world would be thrilled if that was the case. And I'll even let these people say, he's such a great negotiator, art of the deal. He always knew this was going to be the outcome, and he just played the hand perfectly. Yeah, go, feel free to say it. I don't care. But it's not like this comes without a cost, right? Like you're, scaring the living daylights out of people. We already have dead servicemen. Thousands of people in Iran are dead. The oil markets are spiked. The economic ripple effects are profound. We've burned every alliance that we cared about over this, and we're threatening to leave NATO. And if you get a sort of deal that gets you back to the previous status quo, like that doesn't make you a master negotiator. It just makes you an idiot, honestly. But if they want to say that he did it and he got great negotiation out of it, cool. I'm happy for them. I was thinking when we were talking about this, we were talking about like the sort of anecdotal stuff, like the metrics that you can tell if he's losing popularity. Have they been doing those like Ohio diner interviews on TV that were popular in 2017, 2018? Have you seen any of those?
Not that I've seen.
We should do those. We got to go back to the diner as a genre, a reporting genre. I'll send you there.
Well, someone just went to the diner where the Trump administration officials supposedly teleported to for the Times.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But I think that's the new
That wasn't
genre.
a diner. That was a Waffle House. Get it right. Come on now. Totally different. Yeah, that was a good story. I should have thought about that one. I was a little jealous of that one. Okay. I got nothing else to add. I'm like, how are you preparing for tonight? I'm like nervous. I was nervous last night for like the UConn-Michigan game. This is a different type of anxiety. I got to be honest.
I think it's really grim. I mean, I think it's it's one of these situations where I think we felt this way a lot, whether it's January 6th, these other things under the Trump's presidencies. But this really feels like really much stark moment of sort of like, is someone going to do something?
Yeah, no, it's bad. Well, I'm glad to hold hands with you and walk through it well. Really appreciate your help for my emotional stability. Everyone should follow False Flag, subscribe to it, and subscribe to our YouTube feed where you get really uplifting conversations like this. Talk to you soon.
Hey everybody, Tim Miller from the Bulwark here with managing editor Sam Stein. We were in the green room complaining about youth sports, but now we're here to talk about important matters of state and nation. The president gave a little press conference gaggle, whatever we're calling these little hybrid things that he does in the White House today, and got a little heated with a friend of the show, Caitlin Collins of CNN. So I'm going to play a couple of those exchanges and then play something really gross at the end for everybody. So make sure to stick around for that. Sam, did you have any big picture thoughts? Or should we just jump right in?
No, let's jump right in. Because what I want to say big picture wise really depends on people seeing the exchange.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's watch the first exchange before Trump starts getting nasty.
On the Epstein files, you talked about Democrats who were in there. Elon Musk was also in there, and so was your Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and correspondence that he had with him. Did you read those new files that were published by the Department of Justice?
I didn't. I have a lot of things I'm doing, a lot of things I'm doing. I don't know. You mentioned two names. I'm sure they're fine. Otherwise, it would have been major headlines.
I thought that clip was interesting, mostly just because how cucked he was by Elon. I mean, Elon called him a pedo. But maybe Trump feels like he needs the money. Maybe Trump feels like he needs the X support. But no, he doesn't. That's not the Trump I know. He doesn't take an opportunity to swap back at Elon. I thought that was noteworthy.
Good point. I hadn't thought about it in that terms. He could have easily just said,
"You're not a petty bitch like me," is why. I'm petty.
This extends from our conversation about youth sports. He could have been like, "Boy, Elon was in there a lot. What's he doing there? Why does he want to party so hard?" But he didn't take that opportunity. I don't know if we're going to play. We probably could, but there's another opportunity he just didn't swing at, which was when they asked him about Bill Clinton. And he was just like, I always liked that guy. We could play that. Do we have that clip? Because we could play that clip if we wanted to.
Let's play it.
Okay.
Today we heard that the Clintons set deposition dates to testify before the House Oversight Committee. Any reaction to that and related to the Epstein question?
I think it's a shame, to be honest. I always liked him. Her, she's a very capable woman. better in debating than some of the other people. I will tell you that. She was smart woman. I hate to see it in many ways.
I have a take on this because I was doing a deep dive on the original, one of the files that was just released, the original indictment of Epstein in 2007. Before
the Acosta one.
Yeah, before Acosta watered it down.
Okay, yeah.
And you're going through it, and it's just, there are some redactions that are like, okay, well, there are too many people redacted. It can't just be Jeffrey and Ghislaine. There has to be others. And then there's another email that was just popping around. Somebody to Jeffrey, thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. And that's, I know, disgusting. And that's redacted, whoever sent that email. And I just think that in this point, Trump, either out of just the fact that he always sides with the male sexual predator, or out of some sort of solidarity with the other people that are in the Epstein files doing gross stuff, for some reason, I do think he's decided his best position here is to just totally side with all the creeps.
Well, so there's the most generous way probably to think about it is, and I don't think this is not how I think about it. You could look at this and say, he realizes this is just horrible stuff for him. And all he wants to do is just move off from it. He just doesn't want to talk about it. He wants to get out of the news cycle. In fact, he was pretty explicit. He was like, I think we can move on to other stories now. So that's the most generous. The other way to look at it is the way you were talking about, which is that this is his world, or this was his world. He lived in this world. He knew these people. He cavorted with Epstein. We know this because it's now public record. But there's also little subtle clues. I don't know if you caught this the other day, where he caught himself referring to him as Jeffrey, not Jeffrey Epstein. He's like, it's like, you're on a first name basis. And so he knows these people. He's been with these people. They are people who he socialized with. A weird, very odd stratosphere of rich and famous. And maybe part of him just, recognizes that, he was once of that world, and he has kind of a weird affinity for him. And that would be your interpretation.
Or he's actively covering up his own behavior as well. I think that that's all related.
That's the thing. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many files.
I just keep coming back to I have this little sort of North Star here, which is that Trump in his entire life has demonstrated no empathy for anyone. Literally, Renee Good gets killed by one of his agents, and the only thing that he can say is I hear his dad's a fan. Her dad was a fan of mine.
Yeah,
and so he has no ability to do empathy except for old men accused of sexual assault. And then all of a sudden, you do see him over and over again being like, he's a good guy. He's a good, and so I think that there's a blanket. He sees the men who are accused of sexual assault as being his compatriots that he has to defend no matter what. I don't think it's that weird. I think it's psychological.
It's weird.
It's weird. It's weird, but it's sensible. It's psychologically logical. As somebody who has done this, a lot of gross stuff with women, he wants the benefit of the doubt, so he wants to give everybody else the benefit of the doubt.
I feel like you don't have it, but you probably have earned a psychology degree at this point from just how much you psychoanalyze Trump. You're very good at it.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm an amateur. I could have been a life coach. I could have been a shrink. I think I would like to have been a shrink. That would have been a good side job for me. Okay, it continues to get worse with Caitlyn, though. Things escalate. Let's go to the next exchange between Caitlyn and Trump.
A lot of women who are survivors of Epstein's are unhappy with those redactions that came out. Some of them, entire witness interviews are totally blacked out. Do you think that they should be more transparent?
The fact that they thought they released too much. I heard that, and you tell me something else. No. I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else, really. Now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel they have gotten
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. She's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face. You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth. And you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you.
Smile, woman. All right, Sam, I have a lot of thoughts, but why don't you go first?
It's, first of all, he does this to female reporters. female reporters, okay? It's gross, but it's not unexpected at this point. Like, we all know this is who he is, okay? What really got me was two parts of this. One is there's a number of female senators holding MAGA caps behind them. You can't see them in that clip. And they're just sort of sitting there,
including Susan Collins.
Including Susan Collins. And they don't, I guess they're not going to speak up, but it's pretty grotesque. The second thing where I'm really upset is with the rest of the White House Correspondents Association in this case. Now, I don't think people have been in these situations, so just let me tell you, it is crammed. There's tons of reporters there. They all have mics. They all want to get a question in. You have a set period of time. Caitlin Collins is asking a number of follow-up questions, so there's probably some sort of like, hey, I want my turn, right? I get it. But when the president of the United States does that, and when he insults one of your colleagues, you have an obligation, because you're part of an institution, which is the White House Correspondents Association. You have an obligation to stand up for your colleague. And you can do that in one of two ways. You can say, no, she smiles. She's a great colleague. You shouldn't talk to her like that. No one's going to do that because it's the president. But there is another way to do it, which is to say, you're a special case. The other way to do it is to say, sir, let her finish your question. Or I'm not going, or say, take your turn and say, actually, let her finish her question. Or follow up on her question. Don't go and divert to the next fucking question. Like, make him answer the question. You are a collective unit. The only way this works as the press is if you operate collectively. It is a collective action problem that's hurting our press corps. And when you see that happen, you have to act in that moment collectively to hold the president accountable and ask those questions. And they just don't do it time and time again. It really pisses me off.
I mean, and think about all of the other times that he's insulted the other women. And in no other situation would you allow this. I would think most people who have any integrity. Let's go back to our hypothetical youth sports situation. Why do we have a higher bar for the president than we would for a youth sports coach? Like, I'm coaching a girls' basketball team. If the other coach or the ref, starts screaming at one of my girls or starts saying, "Do you not ever smile?" Or what's your problem? Or like, are you know what I mean? Obviously, it's a child versus an adult, but like, you understand the situation. Like, you would stand up for a colleague or somebody that you're working with in that situation and say, what are you doing? Like, that's totally inappropriate. Like, that is totally inappropriate. I'm sorry. I don't care that just because you're the president of the United States doesn't mean you get to be a bastard in front of everybody without any opprobrium.
It's also tactical too, right? This is what the White House does. And this is what Caroline Leavitt does at the briefing. If they don't like a question, they shoot down the reporter, often in personal terms. They call him fake. And then they quickly go to the next person in the room to get off of that question that they don't like. And all it would take is for the next person who's called upon to say, actually, I'm going to ask her question. Or actually, why don't I cede back the time to her? And they never do it. They never, ever do it. And I would like to see just once, try it. Just say, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm going to give it back to her.
Another thing we could do while we're spitballing, next time it happens, in that room, Trump has always been happy to pass the mic. He doesn't always want to deal with the answers from the fake news. Could have followed up right there and said, hey, Senator Susan Collins, what do you think about the fact that the president just said that Caitlin Collins doesn't smile and like that CNN is fake news and that he doesn't want to answer her questions about the Epstein files? Do you have anything to say about that? That's fine. That's allowed. I just think that I felt this way back when I was a Republican strategist on the same side. And it took a while in the 2016 campaign for everybody to catch up to this. And by the time people caught up to it, it was too late. It's like he wants to play by a different set of rules and everybody else wants to play by the same rules. And I think that you can be a little creative. It doesn't mean you got to stoop to his level. Doesn't mean you have to be a bastard, but it's just like, there's no rule that says you can't ask one of the female senators to follow up on that. You could do that.
The one way this does fall apart is that he's filled the room with a bunch of sycophants and like people from like Gateway Pundit who are going to ask ridiculous questions. So that does create complications, but it doesn't mean it's insurmountable. And yeah, you do have to get creative. You just have to get creative with it.
Yeah, his behavior is appalling, but we knew that.
It is. It really is appalling. It really is appalling.
It's appalling.
Why do we tolerate that? He treats a reporter just like that. I mean, it's just grotesque.
You wouldn't tolerate in any other situation. Like if my kid was in a school and the school principal was talking to a teacher like that, I would say, we're getting out of the school. Like what? Like is that's the model that you're setting? Like, or if you're in a work center, if you're in a Bulwark office, like somebody talking to, you know what I mean? Like you would never do that. Like it's totally appalling and inappropriate. And And I do think that it's worth mentioning also that the questioning was about the way in which powerful men abuse young women. And then as a response to that question, Trump's like, you're a young woman and you don't smile enough. I just think that's revealing in a sense. All right. I want to move on to one other thing that happened today that's related to all this. Trump was also asked about, the nonsense about wants to nationalize elections and all that. And we've come to expect this from Trump. And I think we've covered this a lot on the channel, and we want to be vigilant about this. I think it's pretty noteworthy, though, how Mike Johnson talked about it today, the Speaker of the House, because that is a change. Usually what you've had, which is not a good place to be, but you have Trump kind of popping off, then you have like the Republicans on the Hill being like, I didn't see that, or I think what he meant was this, and that's bad in its own way, but it's not as bad as starting to dip your toe into the pool of no, I'm with him. And that's what we got from Mike Johnson today. Let's watch that.
In our system, the states have been in charge of administering their elections. What you're hearing from the president is his frustration about the lack of some of the blue states, frankly, of enforcing these things and making sure that they are free and fair elections. We had 3 House Republican candidates who were ahead on election day in the last election cycle. And every time a new tranche of ballots came in, they just magically whittled away until their leads were lost. It looks on its face to be fraudulent. Can I prove that? No.
Can I prove that? Nah. Just gonna throw it out there, though.
It's fraudulent. And these magical ballots, this is really explicable. More ballots come in. Oftentimes it's the mail ballots that come in later because they take longer because it's the mail, and Democrats vote more in the mail. And so, like there are explanations for this. It is explicable. Like you could just ask somebody who's an expert about this or who knows the district, who understands. So this is a knowable thing. He's pretending not to know. But the reason why it's so alarming to me, he's a little twerp, I guess I should say first. But the reason why it's alarming is that the thing that has worried me most, I feel like folks who kind of just watch this casually and are just not that close followers are like, they're concerned. It's like, oh, they'll cancel the elections or they'll screw with them on the front end. And who knows what they'll try to do. But I think that risk is less than the risk of Mike Johnson on the back end deciding, I'm not going to seat these guys because we want to wait and see about these mail ballots. We're not sure. We're going to litigate. It seems like fraud. Can't prove it, but I don't think I can seat anybody until whatever. We go through some, cockamamie legal process, right? And maybe it's an attempt to steal. Maybe it's just an attempt to stall by a couple more months before the Democrats get the gavel. That is, to me, I think the most likely shenanigan. Now that their redistricting gambit failed.
It's an easy
and
combo,
him saying
right?
that makes it even a little bit more likely in my head.
Just paint a picture, right? California's got all these ballots coming in. Let's first of all, I want to just level set. He's totally wrong, right? Like California, yes, it does. More ballots come in. It tends to go more blue, mail ballots. The opposite is true in Arizona, where they have what's called the blue mirage, where it looks like remember Ruben Gallego had a big lead over Kerry Lake and it dwindled and everyone's like, whoa, is he going to hold on? Okay. So he's wrong. But the scenario you paint it's pretty, it doesn't seem far-fetched, right? Where you have a Trump Justice Department launching lawsuits and investigations into balloting in blue states, drawing out litigation, and the Speaker of the House saying, well, we can't seat these people because there's too much unknown. There's too much ambiguity about what happened. There's too many questions left unanswered. Now, remember, Mike Johnson led the amicus brief from the state of Texas seeking to overturn Biden's win in 2020. So he has history of getting involved in this stuff. And I thought his comments today were some of the more irresponsible comments from a House Speaker that you could possibly get. He is directly undermining faith in the integrity of our elections, doing so while openly admitting he has no evidence. Just that it feels funny to him. Think about that. Think about how reckless that is. It's unbelievable that he would do something like that. And I am worried. Obviously you should be worried as Trump's talking about nationalizing elections and all that stuff. But to have that 1-2 punch where you have the Justice Department clearly at the behest of the president doing all this stuff, and the Speaker of the House who is in charge of seating members saying, well, I believe in this stuff, you end up with a very, very bad combination.
Yeah, I got to say, Gavin did a good job of combating their first gambit with the redistricting. He deserves props for that. The California ballot counting thing, though, is a nightmare. And
he's
people
got
screaming
about
this
10
for
months to deal with it.
Yeah, they've been screaming this for the rooftops for a long time. They shouldn't have to change their ballot, the way that they tally votes, because the other side is going to screw with them. On the other hand, in a first world country, people should be able to count the ballots in a night. Okay, they count their ballots.
It's a good point. And it's a good topic maybe for Lauren Egan for opposition. What is California going to do in advance of November to make sure that this hypothetical scenario that we're just painting doesn't happen?
All right. Well, there you go. It's a good assignment. Assignment editor. You're welcome, Lauren Egan. That's Sam Stein. He's the managing director. He does the assignments like that. I'm Tim Miller. I just pop off. Let's subscribe to the feed, will you? Tell your friends. I was on with Brian Tyler Cohen the other day. Dude has 5 million subscribers. I was feeling a little bit of subscriber jealousy.
Envy?
Yeah.
We need to up it. People need to really get on it and subscribe. This is enough. We've been too patient.
Appreciate you. All right. We'll see y'all later.
Hey everybody, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor at the Bulwark, and I am here on Tuesday afternoon. I'm going to be talking about something that I've talked about a couple times with you all. A bill that's been something that I've taken on as a hobby horse in terms of my coverage, that I've written about several times, and that's kind of been central to a few of these videos that we've done. It's called the Give Kids a Chance Act. You might remember this is sort of a monumental piece of pediatric cancer legislation. It's been considered by Congress at several junctures throughout the past 13 or so months. And for some reason or other, it has never passed. It's had these gut-wrenching, awful defeats, sometimes inexplicable defeats, despite being the third most co-sponsored bill in Congress with no one actually objecting to it. It never made it into law. And then today, it made it into law. It actually passed. And as I am doing this, the bill is likely to be signed into law by President Trump. It's a pretty remarkable moment in this field of pediatric cancer research. And I want to take a moment to reflect on it. So you might be saying, well, what does the bill do? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I've confessed that on these programs before. But this bill would allow for the study of combination drug therapies for kids suffering with cancer. Right now, that's really not an option for many of these kids. This would make it so that the FDA would allow for those combination drug therapy treatments to be studied. In addition, it would open up some funnels of money for pediatric cancer research. And there would be some lessening of the bureaucratic red tape around pediatric cancer research and grant applications as well. These might seem like small things, but you have to understand pediatric cancer research is chronically underfunded. The reason it's underfunded is that, thankfully, although still tragically, very few kids have cancer. And pharmaceutical companies are reluctant to make major investments in treatments and therapies for a relatively small portion of the populace. This is an effort to try to at least get around some of the issues that confront families who have to deal with this horrific diagnosis. And for years, this has been the top priority for people who advocate in the pediatric cancer community. But it's also a political story. And it really is a story about how horrible and coarse and ineffective and frankly damaging our politics can become, how paralyzed it can become amidst all this infighting. And so I'm going to go back and do a little bit of history for you. So December 2024, this bill, the Give Kids a Chance Act, was part of a government funding bill at the tail end of the Biden presidency. The bill had been introduced in 2021. It had been considered a couple times, but this seemed to be when it was going to pass. And then Elon Musk threw a temper tantrum because he didn't like any of the extra funding that was part of that government funding deal. And he demanded that Republicans torpedo the legislation. And they did. And the Give Kids a Chance Act was one of many provisions that were taken out and that didn't get voted in subsequently. And the government went on its way. The government was funded, but this provision was left on the side of the road. Months and months and months passed. And again, this bill had to be reconsidered. It got more than enough co-authors and co-sponsors in the House, more than enough support in the Senate. But because Congress works in this weird Byzantine way, and because you have to have enough floor time to have these things considered, no one was ever bringing it up. And so 8 or 9 months went by, and you just had this piece of legislation that everybody loves, that no one objects to, just lingering out there in the ether. And then in September, I started hearing from congressional sources that this thing actually was gaining a little momentum. They weren't sure why. No one was quite aware of what was going on, but they told me to keep an eye out. And then in October, I was flagged again. Hey, this thing might actually have a chance. It's got through the House. And then in December, it was up for consideration in the Senate. Once again, we're about 12 months removed from when Elon Musk had killed the bill that had included this. And now we're going to get a consideration again. And so the United States Senate put it up for consideration by unanimous consent. That means that all 100 senators have to be willing to just support it, or at least put it another way, they can't object to it. And the people in the pediatric cancer research community were optimistic. They actually had several children who are advocates for them, cancer-stricken children, go to the Hill and sit in the Senate gallery and watch the vote, hoping that no one would object and that it would become law. And then at the very last minute, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont objected. Now, the reason he objected is because he wanted all those provisions that Elon Musk had demanded be cut 12 months ago, all those provisions related to health. He wanted all of them restored, not just the Give Kids a Chance Act. And he thought it was unfair that some other priorities, which on the merits were important too, would not be getting consideration. But the bill didn't pass. And so we were left with this current situation where, once again, people in this community were left to wonder what else they would have to do to get this damn thing through. Fast forward to this past week, and the appropriators, the people who are in charge of money in Congress, put together a series of bills, each dealing with different parts of the government. And one of them was on health again. And in that bill, they included the Give Kids a Chance Act. And we got back to a similar situation where they were going to pass these appropriations bills. They made it through the House, and then it got to the Senate again. And of course, everything got a little muddied because of what's happening with ICE in Minneapolis. And Democrats said, well, why would we fund the government, specifically the Department of Homeland Security, if what ICE is doing is so horrific, if we obviously morally object to it? We cannot do this. And so at that moment, it became a little bit uncertain whether they were going to pass anything at all. And people in the pediatric cancer community were wondering, are we going to experience heartache yet again? And then Senate Democrats decided to do something clever, I suppose. They cleaved off the Homeland Security elements of these funding bills, and they said, we'll pass everything else, and we'll just do the DHS stuff for 2 weeks so that we could revisit the situation. And that's what they did. And it passed the Senate. And then today it went to the House, and there was a lot of Democrats in the House who said, we don't like this. We should use the leverage we have right now and demand that everything get shut down unless we get changes to ICE. And enough Democrats, along with many, many Republicans, decided we were going to fund, or they were going to fund, almost all of those appropriations, except for the DHS one. They were going to do what the Senate did. And so it passed 217 to 214, which meant that provisions like the Give Kids a Chance Act also passed and now become law. It's kind of thrilling to see this happen, to be honest, because I've talked to people in and around it for so long, and they'd grown so filled with despair about it. But also, they kept at it, obviously. They kept up the work, but they'd sort of resigned themselves to just this Sisyphus-like struggle where they'd push the boulder up the hill and then it'd just roll back down. And now this priority that they've been working on for 5 years is going to become law. It is a remarkable thing. I talked to Nancy Goodman, who is the executive director for Kids versus Cancer. And she said, look, like the ability to study the combination therapy treatments can create the infrastructure to actually cure cancer for kids. And this is real stuff. There's also a larger political story to be told here too. Incremental progress is progress. Oftentimes, people get caught up with the stuff they don't like and the stuff they oppose and the stuff they want stopped. And I'm not trying to discount that. That's obviously deeply important. But it's easier sometimes to say what you're against than to argue for what you're for. And I would just caution people as they consider how to think about this government funding deal that was struck by Democrats in the Senate with the White House, and that was begrudgingly passed by some Democrats in the House, like 21, but mostly Republicans. As they consider it, consider the fact that real good was actually put into place here, that kids who are suffering from horrific cancer diagnoses now will have a modicum of hope that some treatments can be tested out, or that they might have more research funding. There's other ways that this bill actually does address progressive priorities. There's funding for the NIH in this bill. There's funding for opioid treatment in this bill. There's funding for the community health centers that Bernie Sanders really wanted. The same issue that he decided to stop the Give Kids a Chance Act over. That's in this bill too. There's funding for ALS research. There's funding through K through 12 elementary schools. I mean, all these things, these are things that the Trump administration has been trying to cut, and in some cases successfully cut over the past year. These are things that were the target of DOGE. There's language in this bill that at least Democrats think might, prevent the Trump administration from trying to do backdoor cutting, because it's very specific about what gets funded. Look, the administration is going to do what it does, and I'm sure they will try to make more cuts going forward. I'm sure they're going to try to pursue their agenda with vigor. But one thing that they're not going to do, I'm pretty damn confident of, they're not going to undo the Give Kids a Chance Act. That is now law of the land. Something tangibly good happened today, and it happened through regular congressional procedure. And we spend a lot of time focusing on all the shit that is going horribly wrong in this country, that I wanted to do a video now to tell you about something that went incredibly right today. So anyways, I hope you enjoy this video. I want to thank those of you who've been following my coverage of this story. I'm thrilled that it ended the way it did. I'm happy for Nancy Goodman and for the kids who are arguing and advocating on behalf of this. This is obviously not the end point for this topic. There's plenty more legislation that needs passage. But it is, this is a different type of video and a different type of article that I'm writing than I've written in the past 12 months, and that feels good. So thank you for subscribing and supporting this type of work. If you're not a subscriber, please consider becoming one. Your support, your financial support for the Bulwark allows us to cover all this stuff, including the weighty stuff. And we appreciate that. Talk to you soon.
Hey everybody, Tim Miller from the Bulwark here with my buddy Sam Stein and my geese. And it is Halloween afternoon, and we were just chatting on the Slack. A little unusually quiet from Mr. Trump.
Don't say that.
He was in Asia. I know, I'm jinxing it. He's in Asia. Who the hell knows? And so we're like, what are we going to talk about? And me and Sam just were like, we're just going to bro out before we have to go take our kids trick-or-treating. And talk about whatever we wanted. So we're going to pick a variety of topics. I have a few. And Sam, I would like to kick off with the Lincoln bathroom, and then you get to pick the next topic. How does that sound? Unless you want to talk something else first.
No. I think that's the most important.
Okay, so if we're going to do that, why don't we put the picture up on the screen for people who haven't seen it? This was a post from our president on his social media feed. It shows the old Lincoln bathroom and then the new one side by side. He wrote, he renovated the Lincoln bathroom. It had been in the Art Deco green tile style, which was totally inappropriate for the Lincoln era. I did it black and white polished statuary marble. And then I'm just going to throw up here dye workwear. Derek Guy has also a little picture you can look at with how the Lincoln bedroom looks as compared to the Lincoln bathroom. He's not exactly noticing the connection stylistically. But anyway, I'm wondering what your thoughts are. A lot of ways to go on this, I think.
Well, it's just a lot of marble. Like it's just a lot of marble. And you walk in there, I'm presuming, and it feels like a funhouse mirror of marbles. Also, I was surprised. I thought he would put a bidet in. I had to be honest. But there's no bidet. And he seems like a bidet guy.
He does seem like a bidet guy. Yeah, no bidet. The marble, I'll tell you this. As somebody who bought a house. Hold on 1 second.
I know you like it because you've basically been the biggest fanboy for every Trump interior design decision.
That is not true.
It's true.
That's the story you guys want to tell. But the truth is that I am fucking calling balls and strikes here. Okay, unlike you, all of you have Trump design TDS. Okay, some of the things he's done have been improvements. Some of the things have been terrible. And on this bathroom, the ruling is here's the thing. The bathroom looks, as I just started, like I said, it was about 2 years ago that we were in a house search. We moved to New Orleans. So I was seeing like the new builds. This just like looks like what bathrooms look in like new renovated houses now. It's fine. It looks like what a new Kimpton hotel.
I don't think that's true, honestly.
It is. It kind of looks like what a new Kimpton hotel's bathroom would look like. I saw a couple of these that look just like this. It's fine. I mean, there's nothing against it. I would be if I walked into a hotel room and this was the bathroom, I'd be like, this is pleasant for me.
Yeah, no, it looks like a hotel bathroom.
Yeah,
that's
but
what
it's not like it's not in the spirit of the Lincoln bedroom in any way. The old Art Deco green looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it depresses the spirit. This is just, I feel like I could be, at whatever the new hipster hotel is in Greenpoint.
It's not a place. I want to get a little bit uncomfortable. It's not a place I would want to poop. I'm sitting there, a bunch of marbles.
What about the Art Deco bathroom? Were you happy to poop in there?
I'd be more happy to poop in there. Yeah. You kind of look around. There's a little variety. This is just straight marble. I want some art on the walls. There's no reading material around there. I just don't think it's a good bathroom to poop in.
It's not great. And then you've got the. I mean, in case you weren't convinced that this was a hotel bathroom, you've got the robe there. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
The robe.
Was there little like cushy sandals or anything like that?
I don't see any cushy sandals. I just see a robe and maybe some lilies. I don't know. I mean, again, it's not hideous. It's not awful. It's just pretty meh. And it's like, did we really need to do this? The Art Deco one seemed fine. And that takes us to the more, not to be nerds over here, but like we are in a government shutdown right now. Like people aren't getting their EBT cards. People aren't getting paid. Air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. And but somehow we're putting in a Kimpton bathroom in the White House. Who's doing that? Who's paying for it? Why does Donald Trump get a fancy, not that fancy of a toilet, really kind of a regular toilet? Why does he get a fancy sink while other people are going hungry?
I assume that Mark Zuckerberg and Meta donated to the bathroom. But also it's like, why does he feel the need to post about it is the other thing. It's like, in a way, he's kind of like a classic creature of online culture. He feels the need to post about things that we don't even need to know. Like I don't even need to know what it looks like. I don't know why he felt the need to post that. And he posts at all hours. And he just likes he likes the engagement, I think, much like all of us.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a no for me on the Lincoln bathroom. I think it's pretty
the rare Trump aesthetic that you disagree.
Yeah, that's not true. It's not rare. I also don't like the Aubal Pan Rose Garden about club. That is not good for me either.
What was which one do you like again?
The Oval Office.
The Oval,
looks great.
It does not look great.
It looks great.
So overwhelmed with gold.
So anyway, that's that. Now we're doing a little potpourri. What else is on your mind? I've got a couple of things.
It's like
I could just do all of mine if you want.
It's an extremely hard transition. So why don't we go through yours and maybe we can transition to something a little bit more serious where I'm going.
My list? Okay. Here are some vents. I kind of feel like what was the there's like a Kent Brockman on The Simpsons had a what's grinding my gears. I have a couple things grinding my gears that I'll pivot to. Number one, we're going to fall back on Sunday. It is the stupidest policy that any government has put forth. It is. It is insane that we are going to add darkness to our lives. Don't even comment. If you're a commenter, I don't even want to hear it. If you're for falling back or standard time, it is moronic. I want to play with my daughter after school and have sunlight. I don't want to change the clocks anymore. We need daylight savings time permanently. It's not even a close call. I've looked at the data. I've read Nate Silver's data analysis, and he's for opt-in daylight savings time. I'm for mandatory.
Mandatory?
Because, yeah.
Aren't you a little? The data also suggests that like more children die from getting hit by cars going to school. So it's fake. Why is this fake? Well, you want is a creation of like the golf states because they want longer tea times in the afternoon. Like this is your shit.
I don't golf as a homosexual, but I wish for people that they had longer tea times in the afternoon. Nobody is awake. It's just the math isn't that hard. Who is awake at 5:30 p.m.? Everybody. Who is awake at 5:30 a.m.? Like 18% of the country.
It's not 5:30 a.m. It's like you're walking to darkness at 7:30 a.m. if you don't move these clocks.
Yeah, but no, we're moving it back now that sunrise is happening like in the 6 a.m. range. Who wants
this
that?
one?
Why?
I just think you're wrong. I think you're wrong on this one. Sorry. I just think you're wrong. I think first of all, I don't think
I just want everybody to know that whatever your positions are, I don't care. I'm going to be sad next week. I'm going to have the seasonal affective disorder. I'm going to be in a grumpy mood, and I'm going to be depressed.
You are the type of guy who lets like the sunlight affect how you feel.
Yeah. My moods are very variable, and I'm going to be depressed over it. And I think it's unfortunate. I
prefer to keep children. I prefer to keep children alive, but that's just
I do too, and I think I like the joy of the child.
You like the joy.
So after school, like right now, what's going to happen? We haven't fallen back yet. I'm going to go downstairs after this. We're going to shoot hoops. We're going to go to the park, me and Toulouse. We're going to shoot some hoops. That's great. 2 weeks, we won't be able to do that. We won't be able to do that because it'll be fucking dark. And that is stupid.
Aren't you going to go trick-or-treating with her or no?
Oh, you're right. It's Halloween. Well, generally what we would do in that time is shoot hoops. But we're going to go trick-or-treating. Great point, Sam.
Fine, fair enough.
That's why the geese are here. I forgot about that. I've got my other one is also people aren't going to like. So this is an easy transition while we're hot. There's this thing going around. Some of them people who are my friends are doing it. And folks on and it's a lot of it's the progressive folks that are unhappy with this administration. I'm unhappy, and they're doing the thing now with Usha that they used to do with Melania, where you're hearing people being like, "Poor Usha, we've got to save her." Or JD Vance. I saw a lot of comments about JD Vance hugging Erica Kirk too tight, and I saw a lot of people like making fun of Usha. I'm okay with making fun of Usha. Making fun of like saying Usha, maybe she's in trouble. Maybe the relationship's on the rocks. Yeah. I'm seeing, I see they used to do this with Melania, the free Melania stuff, and it's like, guys, I'm sorry. I saw that I have people talking about how like JD Vance is really gay on the inside. I'm like, no, okay, no. I'm a no on all of this. Okay, Usha is a grown woman. She knows what she's doing. She is very capable. And she's made this choice that she is all in for the soft fascism. So I don't want any babying. Like Erica Kirk and JD Vance are not having an affair. They did a hug. Erica Kirk's husband got assassinated recently. Yeah. You don't need to be micromanaging how she lives her life. Like you can criticize her politics. I'm going to criticize her politics, but like, who the fuck knows what I would do if my husband got assassinated? Maybe I would hug somebody. I don't like. It's not a good hit. And if you're not a gay man, you can't call JD Vance a F slur. I'm the only one that can do that. So those are my rants all around. Usha sucks. Go attack Usha. Attack her. Attack right. Turning Point USA. Make fun of JD Vance. Call him a soft boy. Call him a little soft bellied little wuss boy. That's fine. I'm all for that. Like somebody who's being cruel to others and mean because he was bullied in high school back when he wore mascara. Like I'm make couch fucking jokes. I'm down, but like I'm not game for the we need to free Usha. She seems scared or
blink Usha if you need help. I don't like that either. I this one I am in full agreement. Right. Mostly because I think she's a professional, accomplished person who has agency, and she made her choice. And like criticize her for that. Like you don't need to like come up with some weird conspiracy theories that she's being held captive or something. It's weird.
I hated free Melania. I'm like, Melania is the worst. Melania knows exactly what she's doing.
Well, yeah, it turned out that she was totally fine with everything. I mean, the text came out, and with her and her ex-friend, and it was just like, yeah, she actually wasn't like being held against her will. She was an enabler of it. So I think people want to believe these things, but it seems a little weird and petty to do it.
It is. And last thing, I do want to just reemphasize, I'm sorry. Okay. Like, I'm sorry to the straight women out there who are big fans of ours and the wine moms. We love you. I support you. You can shit on JD Vance all you want. You can make fun of his sexual prowess, talk about how you'd never bang him. Great. Like, however you want to slag him, that's fine. I'm the only one that gets to call him a homo. Okay,
no,
sorry, you can't do homophobic.
No.
You can't do homophobic slurs as a straight woman. You can't. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. But other gay men can call him that, right? You're not.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's not just me. Yeah, it's not just me. If gays can do this is the thing we get. Okay, my marriage wasn't. I couldn't get married for about a decade that we were together. Me and Tyler. That was a burden on me. In exchange for that, I get to have a monopoly on determining whether or not I want to make fun of JD Vance's eye makeup and the fact that he dressed up like a girl in the girls' bathroom and the fact that maybe he got on Craigslist M for M. I get to do that. You don't get to do it.
It's like, I can tell Jew jokes, but you cannot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the anti-dentite. It's like the Seinfeld.
Yeah, exactly.
The dentist became a Jew for the jokes. Or did he become a dentist for the jokes? I forget how the episode
He became a Jew for the jokes.
He became a Jew for the jokes.
Yeah, but you can't do that.
By the way, I guess you could become gay for the jokes. If you want to get down, so that you can start doing homophobic jokes.
Slander JD, yeah.
All right, I'm cool. We'll see how that goes.
Choice. Yeah.
All right, now over to you. Those. That's it. That's my what's grinding my gears.
This is gonna be the worst transition.
Do you not want to do yours? Do you have any other topics?
No, I don't. I actually don't, because it's like
we're cutting yours. What was it that people are gonna be wondering now?
Oh man, I wanted to talk about this guy who was it's like really hard transition here. This guy, Taylor Toronto, who was a pardoned J6 defendant, was arrested near Obama's home, threatening to like blow it up, and he was just released on time served. And I'm like, boggles my mind that they're doing this.
That's a okay transition topic. That's scary. It's Halloween night. A criminal. We've let a criminal back out onto the streets.
Yeah. We have, and it's just so ridiculous and
Who let
insane.
him up?
Our Justice Department. This was the famous case where they fired the prosecutors because they had the temerity to say that January 6th was a organized riot at the Capitol involving thousands of people, and so they fired these people for stating a fact, and then they just let this guy go on time served. Meanwhile, the guy who threatened Brett Kavanaugh and turned himself in got 8 years, and
Deserved.
that yeah, totally, but like. This dude's a repeat offender, and he was like going after Obama and doing, the exact same thing, and he's just going to walk the streets.
The Justice Department just cut this deal.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's insane.
What? I mean, does he have to wear an ankle monitor?
I don't know about that, but he is out, so who knows what he's up to? I mean, honestly, it's actually irresponsible, and
it doesn't seem like law and order to me.
No, and especially when you're like preaching, we got to get, the scourge of political violence, and people need to like recognize that this is a real threat. And they're like, actually, this guy who was a J6 rioter and threatened to kill Obama, we'll go a little lenient on this one. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. You know what, Sam? I think that like this little potpourri of topics, every news outlet has this. So like, how are we going to cover this? It's the weekend. We need some material. You know what Fox News did? Did you see this?
I saw this one. Was this the Snaps one with the mother?
Yeah, Fox News just posted an article and how they fill their space. Where we just do Tim and Sam hangs, what grinds our gears. We get mad at the fact that people trying to do political violence get off because they're friends of the administration. What Fox did was find TikToks of, I'm just going to say it, black people. Complaining about not having
women,
black women. Good point. Good clarification. Complaining about not getting their SNAP benefits, and they found one woman who the hell knows if this is, you know what I mean? Like it's TikTok. Did they really vet?
Who's the Fox News intern who has to scroll through all the TikToks?
Yeah, was there anyone vetting this person? I don't know, but supposedly she said on the TikTok that she had 7 baby daddies and none of them are stepping up, and so she needs this to feed her kids. Which is like, if it's even real, it's like that is sad, and it's like those children deserve food rather, not scorn and mockery. But that's how they're filling the space over there. So the welfare queens are alive and well.
Yeah, classic Fox News segment where it's just welfare, black people taking advantage of welfare. Aren't you mad? Aren't you mad?
Barack Obama's hip hop barbecue won't bring back jobs.
That was a good one. You probably participated in that.
I did not participate in
yes,
that one.
you did.
I did not. Sam, I had, trust me.
I'll go back to my emails. I'm sure back then you were emailing me like, look at this comment at the White House. Comment. How can they get like the least controversial
I made fun of it then. I was always cool. I might have been a Republican, but I always liked fucking hip hop. I wasn't scared of hip hop.
Not at the White House.
Not
at the White House. Denigrating the White House.
All right. What are the kids for Halloween?
What are their? But now I have common there.
What are the outfits you got for the kids?
So little guy's going as a skeleton, really original. But elder guy's going as, so he 2 months ago we showed him Back to the Future, and he was super into it. And like he watched it again, and then I think the third time he's like, you know what? I want to go as Marty McFly for Halloween. And so we're like, cool. That's gonna be so awesome for the parents. No other kid's gonna get this. So he's dressed up as Marty McFly. He's got the bomber vest. He's looking for some plutonium, approximately 1.21 gigawatts of it. And I was supposed to go as George McFly, but I didn't want to dress as like a total dweeb, so not going to do it.
What are you going to do?
I'm just going to go as Where's Waldo. I have a go-to outfit.
Where's
what
Waldo?
Are you? You're a bunch of geese. What
I'm
kind of judgment are you giving me?
Geese. This is not my. These are just a couple of the elements of my costume. This is not my actual costume. But yeah, I'm going to have a white tutu. And I'm going to put the geese. I'm going to put the geese on me, and then I have a goose head. One of them is a head.
And what are you supposed to be?
I'm geese. It's a play on, and I'll have a guitar. It's a play on words. There's a hot band. It's called Geese, and so I'm just geese. I'm many geese. Yeah, I wanted to. What I had a good idea for a whole family. Oh yeah, we were going to be the K-pop demon hunters.
Oh
and
God!
She was going to be the.
Are you a K-pop demon hunter household? Oh,
yeah, she was going to be the hunters, and we are, excuse me, the demon hunters are girls, so we're going to do a gender inverse where I was like me and Tyler were going to be the hunters, and she was going to be the demon, and then at the end she just backed out. You just can't win over a 7-year-old anymore. It wasn't like the year I got to make us all be 3 Britney Spears. I
have a friend who's going as a. I have a friend who's going as, and he's going as Kash Patel. He's got an FBI vest, and he's got a list, which he's calling the Epstein list. And I was a little bit worried. I was like, you don't know who's around there who might abduct you for false identity. Yeah.
I went as jailed Rudy last year.
Did you
Simpler
have
times?
Did you have the hair dye drip?
The hair dye, yeah. Simpler times, yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, this has been enjoyable. Happy Halloween to everybody.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
And we'll be back this weekend as news requires.
Hey, everybody. It's me, Sam Stein. I'm here with the more elevated trio, Jonathan Cohn and Will Sommer. We're going to put Cohn through what I would affectionately call hazing by making him watch this RFK video with Kid Rock. Cohn, if you don't know, writes about important stuff, and Will writes about totally non-important. Actually, that's not true. It's very important, but it's totally mindless. Very important. And so we're trying to give you your veggies and your dessert all at once in this video. It's going to be heavy on RFK, MAHA, and Kid Rock. Fellas, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. Let's start out with the video. Let's just jump right into it. Yesterday, the Department of Health and Human Services put out a video that I don't even know how to properly describe it. It was one of the weirder things the government account has ever put out. And it made the rounds of the internet. It's about 1 minute and 30 seconds long. We're going to dissect parts of it. Let's just play it, and I'll say stop when I want to linger on something. Let's go. All right, stop. What was that? Does anyone understand what's going on here?
The bear is wearing a little hat. What's hard to understand about that?
Why is there a shark? I don't understand what the shark is.
This video, I'm glad we're doing this video because it is so much crazier than you could imagine. I saw people passing this around yesterday. I didn't watch it, and it is there's a lot going on, as we'll see.
Yes. Now I will note, no one's really picked up on this, and it's totally meaningless and inconsequential when you look at how insane the video is. But can you guys tell what's on Kennedy's shirt back there?
The Waterkeeper Alliance?
Waterkeeper Alliance, his old group, which happens to be currently suing the Trump administration over coal plant regulations, which they say are poisoning the waters. So a little bit of cross-purpose advertising there, but that's Kennedy for you. He's operating on both sides of the ledger here. Cohen, I've always thought it was kind of weird that he's just not decided to engage at all in the environmental stuff, even though there is obvious MAHA components to it.
I mean, it's very weird. One might think he has very selective interests in the parts of the MAHA agenda, but it's weird. It's very strange. And, I mean, there are people in the MAHA world who are upset about this, actually. And there's some back and forth and, why isn't he doing more on pesticides and things like that? But
that's a good newsletter. We just stumbled on one. Okay, pocket that away. We say this is weird, but that's not even like tip of the iceberg weird. It gets so bizarre from here on out. Let's keep playing. Oh God! Oh God!
Wait. Oh.
All right, stop. Oh God! Why do we stop there? So, which one of you works out in jeans?
Have
you ever done
it? Jeans. I do think a couple things here. We kind of skipped over. There's a point where RFK is like digging into a big plate of eggs and bacon, and Kid Rock's right behind him, patting his back like, my big boy, eat up, eat hearty. He's like right next to him. And also, I would say like we're now seeing. I guess this is Kid Rock's ranch. They don't tell us where it is.
Well, this is where they are. It's a nice ranch. It's got a good gym complex, but I have no idea where this is.
And well, they're wasting it because, you can see, I also wanted to point out, they're not getting full range of motion, what we call ROM. They're not getting it on those poles, the cable machines. Maybe it's because it's sped up, but it looks like they're just like, like they're milking a cow.
They very clearly don't show what Kid Rock's lifting. Like, you notice that it's like, you just see him pull and you don't see the weight behind it. I was reminded when I was watching RFK eat what he said about his Super Bowl diet, which was a big talk in my family. What was it? Like Fermites or what? I forget what, yogurt and such. I forget what it was. Do you remember this? Did you guys not see this?
He was talking about fermented food, right? I mean, that's his thing.
Yeah. He wanted meats and yogurt. So he's just going to have a Super Bowl with yogurt.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, I have to play a part here. So I'll just sort of note that sort of that the eggs and all that, like, this is one of the many contradictions of MAHA, is that, like, he's all about, what his idea of real food is like high. He's, he wants to bring back saturated fat. We've had this war on saturated fat, and they issued these guidelines that, we're going to, and then it turned out actually the actual guidelines they issued still call for limiting your saturated fat because, all the evidence says too much saturated fat is bad for you, but he's constantly out there eating the saturated fat, which was part of the video. I said that, by the way, because otherwise I would have had to actually demonstrate my knowledge of like workout, like how those machines work, and I have no idea, and I didn't.
There is something crazy though, where it's like he eats all this food that I don't think is very good for you, but obviously he does. And Trump's like got the world's absolute worst diet whatsoever, and yet they're the avatars of the MAHA movement. So there's that.
He does more esoteric knowledge. I mean, he does that thing where he drinks like the blue stuff, methylene blue. I mean, it's stuff that perhaps Jonathan Cohen wouldn't recognize. He hasn't looked into the occult recipes yet.
Have you?
Well, methylene blue, yeah. He'll dip it's like blue food dye. Yeah.
And RFK has this.
Yeah, he's into it. Yeah. Yeah,
so not the red dye is bad, but the blue dye is fine.
Red dye, well, that's where they get you. Yes, it's the blue dye that you want. But man, look at this guy. This is a red guy.
He's very red. Yes. I'm not going to guess what kind of supplements he's putting into his body. Let's keep playing because I can't look at this. Oh God. All right, stop. Why do they have an exercise bike in the sauna? Is this normal? Do they do this to just work out and heat? I guess. I've never been to a gym where there's an exercise bike in the sauna.
I've never heard of this. This is so strange. And look, you look at Kid Rock here. I mean, all due respect to Kid Rock. I mean, I think he's cleaned up his act to some extent, I assume. But it's very odd how he's like the avatar of health here. I mean, our RFK is already Mr. MAHA. I get that. But like, I feel like they have just a couple celebrities they cycle through. Like they just did an FDA event with Mike Tyson, who doesn't necessarily seem like Mr. Healthy Food either. So I think this guy's kind of just like hanging out.
Who else would they have gotten? Scott Baio?
I mean, I don't know, some muscle guy or something, you know, or some, you know, long distance runner or like a Gina Carano or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of athletes, right? I mean, they could. Yeah, it is a little baffling. There's no shortage of athletes they could get.
Yeah, they had Kid Rock doing the Super Bowl thing. I guess they just were like, let's tag team here. So maybe that's it. It was just convenient.
Hey, it's his ranch.
Do we know that? I don't know. Okay. He's also wearing some sandals on the exercise bike, it looks like. So he's trying to figure out, you know, halfway through the sauna, he's going to hit the bike. Not the best form, but whatever. All right, let's keep playing. This is where it gets weird. What the? All right, stop.
Oh my God. It's become Lynchian at this point.
How wet do you think his jeans are right now?
Oh,
They must be just absolutely soaked.
Soaking wet jeans. Let me walk through the living room here.
He's got a puddle following him. Kid Rock's probably like, yo, this is my Apple Crest Farm ranch. You're making it soaking wet, Bobby. What is going on? Why did he not just put on shorts?
It is odd. I mean, it is kind of like he's doing an Americana workwear kind of thing. I don't know why he loves the denim so much, but like, you know, he's been photographed all around town in DC, you know, working out out in jeans. I mean, there's something, I don't know if it's a raw denim thing or what he's up to there.
But no one's ever explained it. No one's like written an article getting behind the sort of workout in jeans idea.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of workout, gear has microplastic, so maybe that's what he's trying to avoid.
Oh my God, if that were it. Also, could you pull the jeans up? Could he pull?
That's all I can think about. Chafing.
I would like him to pull the jeans up just a touch, to be honest with you. They're a little low. Oh God, where'd the belt go? There's Kid. Shirt's back on. All right, this is it. Okay, stop. I'll give them their props. I thought their pickleball playing. They had nice strokes. I think they've done it before. I'm not a pickleball person myself, but you know, this was the one normal part of the entire thing, where it's just like, yeah, two old dudes playing pickleball. I can relate.
I can't believe this, you know, going back a scene, he confronts Kid Rock for relaxing in the pool or the hot tub. But, you know, look, I mean, he was in a cold plunge just a second ago. I mean, it's not like he's really putting it. I mean, you know, that's like basically quackery, you know, not to offend cold plunge gang. You know, they're going to
That is going to cause some problems.
But I mean, you were just chilling in some water too, man. You know, it's he's acting like Kid Rock's like eating cotton candy or something.
Again. Oh my God, why? Stop. Jonathan, you're the expert here. Should you drink whole milk in a hot tub?
I mean, whole milk's fine. You know, there's been some rethinking on whole milk. We used to really push the skim and low fat. Now the latest research suggests, maybe whole milk's fine. I mean, it depends on your circumstances and such. They're very into the whole milk thing. And this is now an emblem. If you like whole milk, then, you know, you must be, you know, part of MAGA and MAHA. That's like an emblem. I mean, I know lots of, you know, liberals and progressive who drink whole milk.
I wouldn't call it a thirst quencher.
I mean, personally, not my thing, but
yeah,
you know, I don't want to be overly judgmental.
I'm thinking of trying this, honestly. Of all the things, I might sneak in some whole milk to a hot tub at some point in my life and just see, is there something to it?
It looks good. I mean, you know, this is part of this. The right has just in the past maybe like month and a half or so, like really embraced whole milk. And it's like, we're bringing whole milk back. And I feel like, I mean, I think Jonathan's pointing to an actual kind of like, obviously they rejiggered the food pyramid and all this stuff. But I feel like basically they want it to be raw milk. They want to talk about, they can't do raw milk. So they have to kind of be like, we're taking whole milk back from the, you know, the nanny state. When really, you know, you can always have whole milk.
Is that true? I mean, like there was some reporting that they did want to push raw milk and that they got told you can't do that.
Yeah, because, you know, people get sick from it and die. Sorry.
No, that's the exact tone we need on this. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's finish up this video. All right. So I'm going to try to segue into something a little bit more serious here. Why is he doing this, Jonathan? Like, to me, from the outside, he seems like a cartoon character to a degree. that his attention is really focused on a lot of these publicity things, a lot of whole profile stuff around eating, and of course, obviously, vaccines and disrupting that. And meanwhile, as you know, in a lot of your reporting, the actual departments he runs are in complete shambles.
Chaos would be an understatement.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we just learned today, by the way, that they're appointing Jay Bhattacharya, who runs NIH, to be also acting head of the CDC. So he's going to now we're having a contest. Who has more jobs in the administration, Bhattacharya or Marco Rubio?
Right.
Although I suppose we should be happy that they didn't just give CDC over to Rubio. So some of this is distraction. I mean, look, there's been a lot of reporting out there that there is a belief in some parts of Republican circles that RFK Jr. is a campaign asset, that people like to hear his message on food and healthy living, and that this is a good message to take into the midterms. I haven't figured out how much of that is real and how much of that is people who support his agenda putting that story out. I do think it is true. The food message, the healthy living message, is popular. The vaccine stuff is not popular, as best we can tell. People really don't like that. The other piece of this, though, that I think might be interesting, I mean, it was funny when I first saw this. Of course, me being who I am, my brain is this an effective way to encourage better eating? And because I'm thinking, I'm going to call up my friends who do public health communications. What does the research show? But I think that might be the wrong category to look at this as public health messaging. And this is more about political. This is political messaging, right? Okay. Who does this appeal to? Which demographic? And I think this is their online crowd. This is more Will would know better than I would, but a way to kind of gin up that enthusiasm and some more cultural war basically, and less about actual public health.
Yeah, we're like in the middle of working on some piece that I'm excited about, and hopefully we can get across the finish line about looks maxing, which is. Well, you've written about it, but like there is some sort of common threads here, right? It's about perfecting your look, getting into peak physical form, looking at the human body as a sort of, temple that you should tend to. And I guess this is sort of that to a degree, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Jonathan would know better than I, but I think a lot of the RFK message is kind of this idea of like, if you're just healthy, like if you work out a lot, if you watch what foods you eat, we can avoid these diseases that say might be prevented otherwise by vaccines or something like that. And so, this idea of like, go do push-ups in the sauna, just like Kid Rock. I think that there's this, almost like a classic conservative kind of like, it's not the government's fault or whatever. We don't need to give you insurance. You have to look to yourself and your own family. And I think we're seeing that reflected here.
Yeah, but isn't it more than that? It's like, and I don't want to bring everything back to clavicular, but like, there is something to it, right? He spends his entire life trying to perfect his physical appearance. And here RFK is basically doing a version of that where he's like, just eat eggs and bacon and do push-ups in your jeans and take a cold plunge and lift. And I don't know if there's a political movement behind it or if it's cultural, but there is some commonality there.
Yeah, I think that's right. And also, I mean, you have to keep in mind, clavicular sees the world as a very kind of dog-eat-dog, universe where it's like only the most handsome will survive or the healthiest. And I think the MAGA or the MAHA agenda is very similar to that. And it's sort of, you've got to eliminate all these things from your diet and only then, will you be pure if you work out enough. In terms of, I do want to say though, in terms of like who this appeals to, I frankly really don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of younger people, like your Groypers or whatever, Nick Fuentes, like a lot of these kind of Gen Z guys are just going to be like, what? I mean, there was already a lot of criticism of like the Kid Rockification of the TPUSA halftime show. And I think for kind of like the MAHA curious mom who's, wants her kid to eat healthy is going to like, I mean, personally for me, it sends my body into a panic, that video, that the idea of being trapped in a jacuzzi drinking milk with those guys. So I just don't think this is a good campaign message or really anything like that.
Can I just say, I want to pick up something Will said that I think is actually really interesting, important, something to watch, which is the sort of MAHA like base for a long time was, I think, sort of it skewed probably more female. Right. And it was these sort of moms and like sort of taking good care of your kids. And they had that kind of aesthetic around it. And it's being kind of merged with this high testosterone, manosphere, Kid Rock, working out, Kennedy pumping iron. And I just wonder if there's going to be some tension there. Like, do those two groups, they're not the same, right? I mean, there's some tension there. And that'd be interesting to see where that goes.
Well, then the other thing is, though, there's health and then there's healthcare, right? And I don't know if obviously one universe is separate from the other, but you had a piece up today, Jonathan, about how they're doing all these things that are going to decrease the pool of people who can get healthcare coverage, and also make it so that the healthcare coverage you obtain may not cover everything that you need. And I do think, I would like to believe there's a world in which people actually recognize that that is also, anti-MAHA in spirit, right? That there's, when people can't get the coverage and the care and the specialists that they need, or they'll go bankrupt, that's not good for your health as well. And we do see that in the polling, that people are worried about how they're handling healthcare. But close us up by talking a little bit about what it is precisely that they're doing, because I think this is actually important, and just sort of the public sentiment around how they are handling Obamacare and healthcare in general.
Yeah. So the story today is about some really complex technical changes they're making to the Affordable Care Act, sort of as part of the annual. Every year, the federal government, has to sort of set the rules for what insurance is going to look like, and they get to tweak it because the market's always changing. So you want to be able to tweak it, but administrations will use that as a chance to push their agenda. So this is the Trump administration. They don't. They want to pull back Obamacare if they can. So they're trying to push these plans that don't cover as much. You have huge out-of-pocket costs. And, they're trying to ease some of the requirements about whether these, your health insurance plan has to have enough doctors. And, we'll see what happens with these. These are not massive changes. They're sort of more targeted, but they're ways of making the Affordable Care Act weaker and less protective. And of course, this comes in the context of having, cut $1 trillion out of federal health programs, mostly Medicaid, but also the Affordable Care Act. And, that in turn is sort of part of a larger sort of pullback of support for not just healthcare, but food assistance, right? I mean, we're here talking about, we're going to, make everybody, we're going to encourage healthy eating. And by the way, we're going to take food stamps away, from, food assistance.
Yeah, but you can do it on $3 a meal. Piece of chicken, piece of broccoli, tortilla.
I feel like I saw a video here about that.
Yeah,
it was really good. It was really helpful. And here's the thing: this is super unpopular, and there's no question. People care about those cuts to Medicaid. They are not happy. Their health insurance premiums under the Affordable Care Act are getting more expensive. This is among the least popular things that Trump has done, which is saying something given the year we've had. And I think, a lot of this is what you're seeing from Kennedy on food. And a lot of this is an attempt to sort of distract from that. I don't think that's it's not particularly subtle, right? Oh, we're not going to talk about that. Instead, we're going to talk about healthy eating and exercise, get people talking about something else, because they know if people are voting on healthcare costs and healthcare access, Republicans are going to lose big. So, anything that moves the subject away from that, well, almost anything, I guess even a weird Kid Rock video maybe is a plus.
Better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I think this is like the platonic ideal of a Bulwark video. It was both ridiculous and fun, and then elevated and informative. Thank you guys for doing this. Thank you guys for watching this. We'll talk to you later. Take care. Hey everyone, it's Sam Stein again. Look, you're about to watch a video about the Trump Presidential Library, which was debuted by Trump's son, Eric Trump, a couple days ago. In between us recording the video, talking about this kind of ridiculous library and speculating on what it might actually be used for, President Donald Trump himself ended the speculation saying the following.
Trump Presidential Library. It's a huge skyscraper.
In Miami.
Is that all a library? What else is going in?
No, well, it's a library. It's a museum or a library. It's a presidential, but I wouldn't start it till I'm out of office. I don't believe in building libraries or museums. It's really like the Barack Hussein Obama one in Chicago. In not a good location, and it's a very unattractive building that's seriously late and seriously over budget. I think you're going to see a great one here, and it'll go up on time, on budget. Best location in Miami. They say it's the best block in Miami, and the state worked with us.
Will people live in the floors?
No, it's going to be most likely a hotel. This concept could be office, but it's most likely going to be a hotel with a beautiful building underneath and a 747 Air Force One in the lobby, which is going to be a trick.
All right, so there you have it. It's not going to be a library. It's going to probably be a hotel, maybe an office space. Who knows? Maybe a casino. We'll see. You should still watch the video. because we are going to dissect what this thing looks like from an architectural standpoint. We're going to talk about the grift that went into it and just sort of how much it is an outrage that there's this big 50-foot tall golden Trump statue that's apparently planned for this place. So enjoy the video, subscribe to the feed. We'll catch you later. Hey everyone, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor of the Bulwark. I'm joined by JVL and Andrew Egger, our in-house architectural design experts. And it's important to have expertise on for this take because we're going to be looking at the unveiled renderings of the Donald Trump Presidential Library introduced to us by Eric Trump in a video last night. It's unfortunate that Tim is not on this one because he seems to be the one who likes the Trump aesthetic the most of those on staff. I was not particularly a fan of this this building, but we'll get to why in a little bit. Before we start this, we're going to play the video and then we're going to talk about specific parts of the video, but strap in because you got about a minute and 20 or so seconds of footage coming your way about the future Donald J. Trump Presidential Library. Oh my. All right. So a notable absence of books from this library in this rendering. But other than that, JVL, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it really is the Trump presidential casino and event space. I'm Ron Burgundy. I mean, it's what this sizzle reel highlights is look at this lovely outdoor space we have. If you'd like to rent it for an outdoor wedding, or if you are hosting other events, we have a lovely ballroom space in here, and here's where we'll put the plane, and also a Marine One, and also a fighter jet.
Yeah, there was a fighter jet there.
And then we have, but if TED Talks, if that's what your event planning needs require, well, we have this lovely amphitheater with a giant gold fist raised. I mean,
let's pull up the amphitheater because I think that one stood out to basically everyone on the internet. That is a giant gold Trump statue. I mean, giant. That would make Kim Jong-un blush, I feel like.
And it's 50 stories, which, I mean, again, I don't mean to get into logistics, but typically you don't do high rises for places that you expect a lot of public in and out traffic because that all has to be managed via elevators. And so this idea of it's going to be for tourists and how are you going to accommodate tourists in it? So I think this is meant to be rented out. I think that's the whole point of this is it's a place to rent out, and we'll talk about the location of this venue, which is called the Trump Presidential Venue.
Right. So in terms of logistics, I think that's an important point, which they seem to get second consideration, if not third, when they're doing these designs. I mentioned that because there's this New York Times article over the weekend about the ballroom. I don't know if you guys saw this one, and they sort of broke down how silly the outlines of it were. There's a giant staircase in the front that leads literally to nowhere. It's just a bunch of stairs up to some columns, and then you have to walk around to get into the side entrance. And they just like these ornamental things that have no actual use. And so for them to put a amphitheater with a huge Trump statue ostensibly on some floor up there will cause problems. You're going to have some serious elevators working back and forth.
I mean, that venue looks like it probably holds somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people. 500 and 1,000 people at the same time for the same event up and down through elevators. I'm sorry, it's going to take a minute.
And Andrew, what do you think of the statue? Are you a fan?
Obviously, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of sort of
restrained classical realism of the architectural style that Donald Trump has always really leaned into. And it's tasteful, it's modest, and I think those are some of the good things about it. On the subject of the stairs, I thought maybe this was like going up to the ballroom. I thought maybe this was like one of the lessons that they took away from January 6th. Sometimes it's nice to have sort of confusing features like that on the outside of important buildings. Just get the mobs going in the incorrect directions. But the one thing I would say, I guess there's two things about the whole mock-up, about the whole sizzle reel. There's like one thing it says about the future and one thing about the present. And the thing about the future, I totally agree with JVL. I think this is like a pretty good insight into the role that Donald Trump sees himself playing in sort of post presidency politics, if there is going to be one for him. And I think it's less like being any sort of like elder statesman of like policy or anything like that for the party. But I do think he really loves the current role that he has at Mar-a-Lago, where, basically anybody who's anybody has to come to him. It's like a center of political gravity. You have to physically go there, be at his club, in order to sort of like curry favor. And it's a really high status thing in Trump world if you like have your wedding there or things like that. And I think this is, just sort of the next iteration of that whole thing. He's going to have to go back and live there full time. Maybe he doesn't want parties all the time, but at least he will have that sort of center of political gravity. And then as far as the present is concerned, I just the ballroom thing is so funny. I'm sorry. Like it's so funny that it occupies so much of his mental real estate right now. There's all this other shit going on in the world. And yet, the president's getting up on Air Force One and he's holding up his big, like poster board with the ballroom renderings. And he got unhappy with his first architect, so he fired him. He's obviously micromanaging like everything about this ballroom. And that's here too. I mean, like,
let's pull up the ballroom picture.
Yeah. What are the big accomplishments of the second Trump term as sort of evidenced by what they're showing or deciding to showcase at the library is this big fucking ballroom he built, which is going to be, I guess, behind like glass. So like, I don't know if it really functions as an event space or if it's just like a replica for people to sort of gawk at and say, what a great ballroom. Great job, President Trump.
I'm confused by this because this is, clearly this is also the picture of the White House ballroom as they're envisioning it. Is the suggestion that they're going to have a replica of the soon-to-be new White House ballroom in this tower? And if so, it looks like it's ground level there. Is it going to be ground level at the tower? But the big takeaway from the Times piece about the ballroom specifically was that it's absurdly large and that you're not going to have events where there's 2,000 people at every single event. If you have an event with like 400 people, which is very reasonable, the ballroom is going to look absurd. It's going to look completely empty. And so, these audacious, huge, showy pieces that they're doing don't really serve a practical purpose.
Can I weigh in one more time just on this picture that we have up on the screen right now? Because I'm totally fascinated by it. It blows me away. Like, it looks like it's just a rendering of the White House ballroom, right? Yeah. And it is like, obviously this thing as it exists in this picture is not going to exist anywhere on any level of this giant high rise. But then there's the plate glass window, and there are the people who are outside of it who are also dressed in like their black tie attire who are like looking through it. So like, are these the visitors? Are these the tourists to the museum who are like,
it's a one-way mirror, actually, Andrew. It's like the Truman Show.
Yeah. You get to have the twofer. You get to have like your glitterati of MAGA, like in your ballroom having your fancy event. And then you get like the normal MAGA people outside, and they get to have the fun experience of watching a fancy dinner through one-way glass.
And Instagram.
It's very strange. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's... Well, you know what? It would be wild if they do a replica of this ballroom in the Trump Tower library, because after we pull down that fucking real ballroom in Washington, the replica will be the only one of it left.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why they have to build the second one. There's other replicas that popped up in the video. The one that kind of confused me the most was the Rose Garden, and we can pull that up. So something's wrong with this, as you can tell. Is that a scene? Is that a garden, or is that like a green screen? Because are they going to have like a little space there? Is that the colonnade? I couldn't really quite tell because that's not how it looks normally in the White House. Usually it goes out to the actual
just
lawn.
AI slop.
Oh, man. Also,
isn't that the answer here? It's just AI slop.
Also, just so everyone knows, Trump removed the actual garden part of the Rose Garden. Yeah. So currently, as it exists, it's just pavement with these umbrella chairs from Doral or Mar-a-Lago that he brought with him. And so this doesn't make sense. I'm not sure what's going on there.
I had waved off the idea of it being AI slop just because these are like the professional renderings supposedly from this firm that they have, detailed. But actually, the more I look at this picture, the more JVL is totally right. If you look at like the faces along the wall in those portraits on the right
did you actually think they were actors that they hired?
No, I just thought they were like normal architectural mock-ups, right? Like of the sort that every project has done forever. But 100%.
I think the blonde lady has 4 fingers.
Yeah. I mean, look there are some real lookers who have been presidents in the past, judging by these framed pictures going along the right here. I don't think those words up top actually spell anything. So yeah, I apologize that it was not immediately evident to me that these were AI.
Let's pull up the Oval Office image that they're putting in. This one, I mean, it's not crazy to have a replica of the Oval in a library.
It's a little
like
weird.
This. It's a little weird, but I'm assuming some other.
I think they do. Bill was saying earlier, I think some of the other libraries already have this sort of thing.
And I think the Ted Kennedy Library has a replica of his office or something like that. That does look like Bill Barr to me in the far right, the guy right there. Doesn't it kind of look like Bill Barr?
Yeah. Bill Barr talking to Carrie Lake and George H.W. Bush.
I don't know. So I guess the attractions here, you can maybe see a replica of the Oval. You can maybe see a replica of the Rose Garden. You can definitely see the Air Force One. My assumption is that's the Qatari one.
I am sorry, but there is a 0.0% chance that they would take a $300 million plane and stick it in a building, because that is what we call a wasting asset. That thing is valuable. It can be used. Like that makes zero sense at all.
Don't they have it in the Reagan one though? They have a plane in the Reagan
Maybe
one.
a decommissioned one.
Yeah.
Or something. But we are in the process of paying to retrofit this thing and take it apart bolt by bolt to take out all the listening bugs and stuff from Qatar that are baked into it. I refuse to believe that they would put a fully functional, up to spec Air Force One and just lock it away under glass.
The thing that confuses me about the Air Force One is, maybe I'm wrong about this, it's a minute since I brushed up, but this sort of like classic, the baby blue color scheme of Air Force One, isn't this the one that Trump is doing away with? I mean, he has brought us back, like his model is like a royal blue and red, the Trump Force One thing. And I don't understand why this is the one that's being mocked up. I guess it's maybe just more AI slop is the answer.
Laziness from the design team.
Get on that, guys. Trump doesn't like this one. He's the only one who doesn't like this one.
And I guess we can't end this without talking about just the sheer size of this building, because it's enormous. So let's pull up that last one against the Miami skyline. Just for some backstory, they took this property from a local college. I guess the college felt like it should donate it.
No, Sam.
To it.
Sam, it's so much more corrupt than that.
Give us the story.
So this was one of the last undeveloped parcels on Biscayne Boulevard, which is an incredibly very valuable piece of land. It was just a surface parking lot, and it belonged to a local college. It was Miami-Dade College. So the college transfers the property to the state of Florida. The state of Florida then, signed by Ron DeSantis, then transfers the property to the Trump Library Foundation. The estimated value of this property ranges from $76 million to the hundreds of millions of dollars. Nobody knows, because if you had put this thing on the open market, God knows what it would have fetched. And what we have here is a vice chair of the board of Miami-Dade College, Roberto Alonso, said, "I think this is a further expansion of an educational facility, because presidential libraries are places where you can go and research." This is how they justified it to themselves. So the entire thing is just as corrupt as the day is long. Again, it's 3 acres of like the most prime real estate you can possibly have in downtown Miami. And it just went for free, yoink, to the Trump family. And they're going to monetize the shit out of this.
Could probably, build housing for the city. You could probably build commercial real estate. You could do anything.
Commercial real estate, right? I mean, you could have been, but here's the thing. This thing is going to turn into commercial real estate. 100%. Right? It'll just be commercial real estate by any other name. It's this giant 50-story tower, which is going to be used primarily for like events and rentals. And the nonprofit foundation that is the Trump Presidential Library Foundation will just collect money off of it. And who will be in control of the Trump Library Foundation? The Trump family. It's just more grift.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I will say this is, I was talking with Andrew about DeSantis earlier today because he's had some interesting tweets that suggest maybe discomfort, but this makes me second guess.
Sam has been like grinding this axe of Ron DeSantis. You know, he's
something
come
that
for
I
Donald
don't even know. I will say he also
he's renaming the Palm Beach airport the President Donald J. Trump International Airport, and he's given him, you know, all this free real estate for the library. But he also had this tweet, you know, about this backhanded compliment about AI stocks, and I don't know, man. So yeah, look forward to that in the morning shots, I guess.
Can we talk briefly about the aesthetic of the tower itself and how it is a carbon copy of the Freedom Tower in New York, but only littler? And so somebody is going to put these two things next to each other in a proportional rendering, and you will see how much the two of them look the same, except that the Trump Miami Tower is half the size.
Yeah, but relative to the rest of Miami, it's fucking massive.
Relative to the rest of Miami, it's enormous. But
I don't want JBL to put any ideas in Trump's head, because if you remember, I mean, he fired that first ballroom designer, as I was mentioning before, in part because Trump wanted to keep making the ballroom bigger and bigger and bigger. And at a certain point, the architect was like, "Look, man, we gotta worry about matters of scale."
Oh, here we go.
But again, this isn't scale. So what you're seeing is not scale. If we put these things at scale, the Trump Tower would be half the size. It would go up to a little bit further
It's identical.
We are one bad
homage.
Oval Office presentation away. All they have to do, somebody has to carry in that scale presentation to the president, and all of a sudden, this screenshot on the left here is
just
half
do it with popsicle sticks. You know, do a popsicle stick model of the two, and be like, "Mr. President, take a look at this."
This information must be kept from the president at all costs. You know, the skyline of Miami has suffered enough.
So this is a confession. I'm not proud of this fact, but I have never rooted so hard for climate change.
For the city of Miami to become just flooded.
Because let me tell you, seeing this place underwater would be chef's kiss.
What do you think the insurance policies are on this bad boy? It's got to be high.
That's why you got to hold all those weddings and bar mitzvahs there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to get a Trump library bar mitzvah for my boy. Let's hope it's built in time. All right, JVL, Andrew, thanks so much. Appreciate it. For those who are actual architects and have some thoughts on what they've just witnessed, drop them in the comments. We'll take a look. We'll see if we can incorporate them somehow. For those who are not subscribers to our feed, do subscribe. It's a great place for conversations just like this. Talk to you guys later.